Here.
Alderman Holmes.
Here.
Alderman Tindem.
Here.
Alderman Grover.
Here.
Alderman Rainey.
Here.
Alderman Burris.
Here.
Alderman Fisk.
Here.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Here.
Sorry about that. Odd nine to zero.
We have a quorum. Welcome to the Monday, July 11th meeting of the Evanston City Council. The first item on the agenda is the mayor's public announcements, and I would like to publicly thank the 4th of July Association, who are all volunteers and did an absolutely wonderful job, and they all deserve our thanks. City Manager?
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the council, good evening. We had a little bit of excitement here in the community this morning when a short but very strong storm came through town. We've experienced quite a few power outages throughout the community, a number of down power lines, a number of down trees. Dave Stonebeck, our Director of Utilities, and I'll reinforce that all the utilities you're directors of, electricity is not one of them, but Dave is our point person working with ComEd on power issues, and I've asked Dave to come this evening to kind of give an overview of what has occurred, what we know currently, sort of all the facts and figures. Mr. Stonebeck, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor, City Clerk, and Alderman. ComEd has reported that system-wide they had 852,000 customers affected, and as of 7 o'clock this evening, they had 305,000 of those restored. The hardest hit area, not surprising, was the north suburbs, including Evanston. Right now, in Evanston, approximately 12,400 accounts were affected, and there are still 8,291 accounts that do not have power. Word from Commonwealth Edison is that this will be a multiple-day power outage. It will probably take 3 to 4 days. Part of that is the areas that were affected by this. Normally, they would bring in crews from Iowa to assist with restoration, but Iowa was also severely hit, so they're actually bringing people in from Kansas. They're driving their equipment up here. That equipment does not move fast, so it will be a day before they're here. They're also flying people in from their sister company in Pennsylvania. They're being flown in, so they will work off the equipment that's already in the area. So the normal crews will work 12 hours, and when they go home, the crews from Philadelphia will get in their trucks and go out and work. So again, we're looking to 3 to 4 days to restore 90% of the customers that are still currently out. The biggest problem will be the residents whose individual service line, the line that goes from the alley to their house, if that is down due to a branch or a tree in their backyard, those are the lowest priority when it's only affecting one individual customer. The other concern on that is that those customers, generally when that power line comes down, it also pulls the meter and the meter head up to the weatherproof meter head away from the building. The homeowner is responsible to get that weather head and that line back up on their building to the meter. ComEd doesn't own it until the meter. So those residents will have to go out and hire an electrician to get this work done. The electrician does not need to get a permit first, but he will need to apply for a permit because that's how our electrical inspector will be made aware of the need to inspect the repaired work. ComEd will not hook up the service unless the City of Evanston electrical inspector has inspected and approved it. So that's an item that we need to try to get out to our residents as well. So if your line is down in your backyard and it's pulled away from your home, go get an electrician, have the work done, make sure the electrician knows that they need to get a permit, because having a permit is what triggers the electrical inspector to come out and approve it before ComEd. The ComEd will not hook the power back up unless the electrical inspector has approved it. Currently, there's 127 open tickets for ComEd in Evanston. They have 3 crews working in Evanston at this time. There are large areas that are out of service, circuits 201 and 202 in North Evanston, from Ashland east to the lake and north to central. Basically, there are multiple tickets, open tickets on that, which means that there are multiple locations where power lines were down by the trees. It's a similar type thing in Circuit 661, which is Church to Lee, Darrow to Ridge. There's approximately 600 people, 600 accounts out there. Circuit 4713, which is in southeast Evanston, between Hinman and Lake, Dempster to South Boulevard. There's approximately 722 accounts that are out there. All of Circuit 85, whatever, there's 5 or 6 of them. They're the ones being powered from Skokie. They're on the south side of the city, pretty much south of Oakton, all the way from the canal, all the way across to Custer. There are multiple outages on that system as well, so that will take quite a while to get restored. Most of our phone calls came in through a 311 center, and we were able to get the critical areas, and we actually worked with the ComEd representative. We were being advised of where power lines were down and in the street and causing a public safety hazard. Those were the ones that were addressed first. We also took a list of critical buildings that were without power. The Cook County Housing Authority was without power, but the power has been restored there. So we're taking a list of the critical buildings that need to get power back on and trying to get to those first. It's going to be a long time until they're able to do all the work that they need to do.
Any questions, Madam Mayor, members of the council?
Alderman Rainey?
Well, you know, what's a long time? To me, without power, a long time is 4 or 5 hours. Are we looking at 9 days? I'm trying to add up all the outages you're talking about with 3 crews in town. I mean, what are we talking about here, realistically?
I think that we are looking to 3 to 4 days. I would assume that the majority of the big circuits will be back up in power Thursday evening, Friday morning. But that the individual...
Today is?
Today is Monday.
Monday.
So it will be Thursday or Friday till the majority of the circuits are back up. I would say all the circuits will be back up at that time. What the people that won't have power are the ones that have their individual service line from the pole in the alley or from the street going to their home that it was knocked down. Those are the lowest priority.
Well, the south end is from the Skokie circuits.
The south end, right, there's a big transformer in Evanston, transformer substation in Evanston on Emerson Street that feeds the majority of Evanston. The circuit that's in South Evanston, that transformer station just originates in Skokie. It's not any different. It's the same technology. It's just they can't put all of Evanston on one big substation.
Well, you say there are 3 crews out in Evanston. What's in Skokie?
I don't have that exact
Can you
figure,
get
but
that
to the
for me?
best of my knowledge, it's 3 crews as well. So they have it, and the outage maps are hit and miss. They actually came up for a short duration this afternoon, and Wilmette, Skokie, Evanston, they have all about the same amount of people without power as Evanston does. So it's a large service area that's out.
Alderman Grover?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to thank you for a meeting a couple weeks ago with ComEd officials, and I understand that the plan is for them to come meet with us next Monday, a week from today. Is that still on?
Yes, that meeting is still on, still
And-
scheduled for next Monday. And if I had this opportunity, I'd like just to say, a lot of times we get phone calls, and I received a lot of phone calls today, and if I didn't call everybody back, I apologize. I made as many phone calls as I could. It is not a case of the system being overloaded. Some people feel that because it's hot and the air conditioners are on that we're actually having a brownout. That is not the case. There are more than 65 locations where wires are down, where we know of wires being knocked down by tree or tree branches. There's, I believe about 80 trees that have been knocked down in Evanston with the tree branches coming down as well. So it's not a matter of having sufficient power. It's just that the wires were knocked down and caused a problem. The other thing is a lot of people say the people across the street have power from me, but I don't. Why not? A lot of Evanston, the power lines run through the alley, so it probably won't be the people that are across the street from you that don't have power. It's probably the people that are on the other side of the alley from you that don't have power. And there are a lot of circuits in Evanston, and they'll bring up the circuits that they can. The circuit in southeast Evanston is a very large area with 3,000 customers on it. They will bring up the power as best as they can to the individuals that they can. So they have fuses in the middle of the circuit, and if they restore power on one side, they can open up that fuse to stop power going to the area where there's still a fault and return power to the area that's been restored. So they'll bring it up as fast as they can and as quickly as they can, and they won't wait for all 3,000 customers to be able to get power. They'll bring the power up as it's available.
Mayor,
Yes, Alderman
can we
Rain.
see how many people here have no power or had no power?
And again,
I want to get that on tape.
there are probably only about 14,000 services in Evanston total. I mean, that's how many water counts that we have. And there's reporting at this time, there's 8,291 customers without power. So that's going to be just over half of Evanston that is without power at this point in time.
One thing I did want to say, I've had several calls from elderly people whose electricity is out and who cannot handle their garage door because you have to jerk it and they're heavy to lift up. So if you have neighbors who are senior citizens, you might want to check with them and see if they need some help. We're trying to send people to help those who call and make sure that they not only, they may have lost power, but they shouldn't lose their transportation as well. So check with neighbors, please.
And Madam Mayor, members of the council, regarding that, 311 has been very useful today. We've had over 1,300 calls to 311. So we're really prepared to answer any questions. If people are having problems with their garage door, we have set systems in place through our CERT volunteers to help with that. If there's issues still with trees, we've gotten lots of calls through 311 with trees. If you'd like an update, we'll have crews out overnight from Public Works, Forestry, utilities. We'll have folks out there. Well, the police and fire department will be out in areas where there aren't street lights patrolling. So we'll have all sorts of folks out. Please call us if you need something.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tumbeck. Next, I'd like to call up Mary Johns, the director of the Evanston Public Library, for a presentation. As many of you are maybe aware, Mary is leaving us at the end of this week to head to South Dakota. She's going to be the director of the Siouxlands Public Library, which is a Minnehaha County, as well as Sioux Falls, South Dakota. The city council in Sioux Falls is meeting as we speak in order to confirm the mayor's appointment, and they've been kind enough to put off their vote until Mary can join them by telephone after this presentation. So please thank the mayor and the city council in Sioux Falls. Mary, you've done an outstanding job as the director of the Evanston Public Library during some very difficult times. These last couple of years, the community has, I think, gone through a process of really examining the role of the public library, and through that very difficult time, you have led the public library here in Evanston with the highest degree of professionalism, always focusing on delivery of service to the customer. So, Mary, on behalf of the city of Evanston and Mayor Tisdall, we'd like to present you with this plaque recognizing your years as the director of the Evanston Public Library. One last announcement, Madam Mayor. This weekend, lots of things happening in Evanston, power willing. One is the Ethnic Arts Festival that will be held at the lakefront on Saturday and Sunday. And then on Sunday afternoon, the running of the Evanston Grand Prix bicycle race coming back through the streets of downtown Evanston. So for more information, you can check our website. But the Ethnic Arts Festival is during the day on Saturday and Sunday along the lakefront, and the bike races in the downtown Sunday late morning through the afternoon.
Thank you. City Clerk, do you have communications?
I have no communications this evening, Madam Mayor.
And the next item on the agenda is a public hearing on the issuance by the City of Revenue Bonds, Series 2011, Royce-Moore School. And I gather I am going to appoint the city attorney, Mr. Farrar, to be the hearing officer. And while he's conducting the hearing, someone might want to get me the citizen comment sign-up sheet.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Pursuant to statute, being the duly appointed hearing officer for what is called a TEFRA hearing on the city's bond issuance, which is agenda item A9, I hereby call the meeting to order. At 7:43 p.m. With respect to the notice of meeting, the notice of meeting was published in the Chicago Sun-Times on June 27, 2011. The proof of publication from the Sun-Times was presented to the city clerk for filing with the minutes of this meeting and is also attached to the agenda item posted in the agenda packet. The city is conducting a public hearing regarding the proposed issuance of the City of Evanston, Illinois Educational Facility Revenue Bonds, Series 2011, known as the Royce-Moore School Project Bonds, in the maximum aggregate face amount of $16 million. Royce-Moore School, a not-for-profit corporation under the laws of the state of Illinois, has represented to the city that the proceeds of the bonds will be used together with all other available funds to finance or reimburse the corporation for the costs of, number one, the acquisition of approximately 2.4 acres of land located at 1200 Davis Street, Evanston, Illinois, 6201, also known as the campus, with an existing three-level, 66,000 square foot building known as the facility. Number two, the renovation, remodeling, improvement, and equipping of said school facility. Number three, the construction and equipping of a gymnasium on the campus, all collectively known as the project. Number four, to fund certain working capital. Number five, to pay capitalized interest with respect to certain portions of the project. Number six, to fund a debt service reserve fund if deemed necessary or advisable by the corporation. Number seven, to pay certain costs incurred in the connection with the issuance of the bonds. These all are known as collectively the financing purposes. The corporation is represented to the city that the bonds do not and shall never constitute an indebtedness or obligation of the city, the state of Illinois, or any other political subdivision thereof within the purview of any constitutional limitation or statutory provision, or be a charge against the credit or general taxing powers, if any, of the state, the city, or any other political subdivision thereof. The bonds are special limited obligations of the city payable solely out of the revenues and income of the city derived pursuant to the loan agreement by and between the city as the initial lender and purchaser of the bonds and the corporation as the borrower. No owner of the bonds shall have the right to compel any exercise of the taxing power of the city, the state, or any other political subdivision thereof to pay the bonds or the interest or premium, if any, thereon. The corporation is represented to the city that this public hearing is required by Section 147F of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986. I'll also note as the hearing officer that there are other items in the agenda which include letters from city vendors. Chapman and Cutler did a bond opinion indicating that there was no debt or no liability thereof for the debt on a part of the city. There's also a letter dated June 22, 2011 from PFM restating the same. And all portions of Ordinance 60-0-11 approving and authorizing the issuance speak to these matters relative to no owner of the bonds having the right to compel the city to pay the bonds or interest or premium. As hearing officer for this hearing, I hereby request any comments from any members of the public. Are there any comments or questions? I let the record reflect I see none. And I will note that written comments, Mr. City Clerk, were there any written comments received on the hearing?
No written comments received.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. City Clerk. There being no further business, as hearing officer, I hereby adjourn this public hearing pursuant to statute.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is citizen comment. Citizen comment comprises, by our rules, 45 minutes of a city council meeting. There are more than 50 people signed up to give comment. So unless anyone wishes to consolidate their remarks, each speaker will have 45 seconds. And I am sorry, but if you want to, I did try to encourage people to consider having spokespeople for a group, but you're more than welcome to all speak. So I'm going to call you up, and it will tremendously help if you will follow one another quickly. First is Richard Halstead, Jack Lerman, Kay Mueller, and Al Telser. And you have to, in your 45 seconds, I'm sorry, say your name and address. Yes.
May we ask if there is an ability for some people to, under these circumstances, withdraw their names?
I think it would be much more effective, I mean, for your group, if you could do that.
Madam Mayor,
Yes?
they could just say pass when you call their name.
You could just, when you come up, say pass, and I'll try to give, that doesn't help me to figure out the time ahead of time. But I can guarantee you we'll be running overtime no matter how we do this.
No matter.
All right,
Let's just get started.
go ahead.
So
I'm Richard Halstead. As I understand, there's a group of organizations who would like to become the exclusive occupants of the Noise Center. And I'd like to say that it's a great mistake, because the original concept was for a more diversified and naturally evolving setting for the arts. And there are all kinds of areas of the arts that will not be taken care of if that's the case. We wouldn't have music, as I understand it. There's a puppet theater that would disappear. Lectures to galleries and studios would disappear. Lots of the classes. There would be the possibility that we would again have a ballet or a modern dance group in the building, or folk music, as it was when the Old Town Music School was in the Noise Center. Biologists say that there's diversity is a healthy thing, and I think it's the same case for a vibrant art community.
I'm sorry, but you've got to wrap up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
If I don't finish this, I have a copy to give each one of the aldermen.
Excellent.
As talk of closing this building swirls around, there are conflicting details every day. There's so many rumors about noise, I can fill pages. We have not been properly informed by the administration of the city. Transparency and discussion are important for the welfare of the community at Noise or in our community. In a democratic society, we expect no less. As residents of Noise Cultural Center, each of us rents a studio in which to do our own work. As well, we are individually responsible for giving back to the community. From the time this building opened, this community requirement was never an option. This means that we must assign ourselves a specific type of work to give to the Evanston community. Increasingly, or interestingly, most of the artists in this building willingly give far more than is required. I choose to teach at the Levy Center. For 11 months of the year, I teach the seniors for 3 hours every Monday morning. I believe in this concept of giving back to the community.
I
In
apologize,
exchange
but I
for-
need you to wrap up. Sorry.
And then none of them are saying their names.
Okay. I've got
My name is Kay Miller. I ask your forbearance because I represent an organization called the TED Fund. We are your biggest customers. Annually, the TED Fund, who sends children only from Evanston to camps and recreation and after-school activities, the TED Fund has sent, since 1997, thousands of children to the city camps. We write an annual check to the city, into the city coffers, for somewhere between $40,000 and $50,000 that we raise, individually raise. We don't get any city money. We raise this money through our activities. We are an all-volunteer organization. And I would like to say that I would look out over this audience, and I don't see a lot of low-income folks here. And so I would like to speak for them, and I would hope you would give me a little bit of time to do that. The city manager asked, should we be in the business of recreation? And that clearly indicates to me he doesn't understand that for almost 40% of District 65 kids, this isn't about leisure time. This is a choice between lockdown, lockup, on the street with gangs, or having them enrolled in vital programs. Vital. Not just fun and games, vital programs. For the poor in this community, the city camps are the only option. And even those aren't affordable, or we wouldn't be writing you a check for $40,000 to $50,000. I say this, when the city manager asks, is recreation the business of the city? Should we be in this business? I say no. Because every other community in the Chicago area has a library district and a park district, and everyone else isn't forced to make a choice between what you need to stay alive and what you want to make life worth living. That's the choice that the city manager is having to make, and I sympathize with you, sir. So I'm asking the city...
I do need you to wrap up now.
I'm asking the city to appoint a committee to study the feasibility of creating a much-needed park district and library district in this town. And when it's taxes, I'm asking the city to study how we can tax our biggest businesses. Northwestern, that pays their football coach almost $2 million a year.
I really do need you to wrap up.
That's not my 45 seconds. My name's Al Telser. I live at 1704 Cleveland Street in the 9th Ward, and I'm here as a member of the Families for Chandler Neuberger. I support the preservation of Chandler as a city-run facility, as well as supporting all recreation facilities and programs in the city of Evanston. Families for Chandler Neuberger support short and long-term retention of all recreation facilities throughout the city of Evanston. With the minimal and aging facilities the city currently operates, Families for Chandler Neuberger support strategic long-term planning, very important point, and investment for improved recreation for families and youth in Evanston, not diminished. How can we possibly consider selling recreation space without having a current recreational needs assessment or a master recreation strategic plan for our city?
Al, I need you to wrap up, sorry.
So we understand our needs. I request that we remove Chandler from line item 39.
Next is Sophie Carlisle, Victoria Smith-Halloran, Vijay Patel, and I apologize, Kirk Mower on maybe Harvard Terrace?
You ready? Okay.
You can use both mics if that makes it any faster or easier. Please go ahead.
My name is Sophie Carlisle, and I'm a member of Families for Chandler Neuberger as well. I support both the preservation of Chandler as a city-run facility as well as support all recreation facilities and programs in the city of Evanston. In the Tribune article last week, Wally Bobkowitz said he plans to come to the City Council at the July 11th meeting and ask the aldermen to consider whether opportunities exist to operate Chandler, the Noyes Cultural Arts Center, and the Evanston Arts Center building in a different way. Quoted as saying that that could be to look for partners, to look for another entity to operate while the city retains ownership, or for the city to sell the property. He said, before discussion, it's important to bring ideas to the council for discussion and see if any properties resonate with them to look at operating differently. This seems to support earlier statements from Wally about whether the city of Evanston should be in the business of recreation. We would ask, if the city of Evanston is not in the business of recreation to meet the needs of our diverse population, then what is the mission of our city? It is a short-sighted recommendation to consider not only selling the land, but possibly getting the city of Evanston out of recreation.
I'm sorry, I need you to wrap up.
Really quickly. Recreation is a priority for Evanston. All of these suggestions represent a disregard for the will and perspective of the community. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kirk Moffitt. I'm an 11-year resident in Ann Rainey's district. I'm also a member of the Families of Chandler and Newburgh. I support both the preservation of Chandler as a city-run facility as well as support of all recreation facilities and programs in the city of Evanston. The possible close and sale of Chandler and Newburgh is on the list of the 39 items under consideration to close the budget deficit that were prepared by the city manager for the City of Evanston budget. The City of Evanston website states that these ideas were pulled from the 175 comments from the Engage Evanston website. After our coalition read through all 175 comments, we could not find one community member who recommended closing Chandler as a possible way to close the budget gap. So we would share that we do not believe closing Chandler or any other recreation facility represents the value or priorities of our community. I ask for your support today to remove Chandler from the list of 39 items under the consideration to close the budget gap. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Victoria Smith, and I live over on the Wesley and Asbury section of Evanston, and I have been a resident for 53 years. I wasn't given a piece of paper, so I'm just going to make it kind of short. Everybody I know that I've grown up with, all their kids went to Chandler. My kids are now counselors at Chandler, and I have never seen any place that holds as much fun and organization and great skills and camaraderie between the parents and the kids and the counselors, and it's a wonderful thing to have in our community. If that were to go, where are your kids going to go? I mean, you can go to Skokie, you can go to Wilmette, it's not Evanston. And we need to stick to Evanston. End of story.
Thank you. Is Vijay Patel here? Jill Brazel, Paula Haynes, Therese McGuire, and Amy O'Keefe are next.
Thank you, Mayor Tisdall. I'm Jill Brazel. I'm here on behalf of the Evanston Arts Council in support of the Noise Cultural Center and the individual artists who are sustaining their art and work here. I realize the overwhelming challenges the city faces with the budget and the difficult cuts that you all have to make. I'm just asking that the city please take into consideration the individual artists who have based their livelihoods at Noise for decades, who have given back to the community year after year, and to recognize what Noise has added to the cultural heart of Evanston. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Paula Haynes. I reside at 2242 Lincolnwood Drive here in Evanston. I'm here tonight as I serve as the chair for the Evanston Corps of the Salvation Army. And I'm here to advise you that the Salvation Army, is very interested in acquiring the Chandler property. The Salvation Army has been a part of this community for 95 years. And if I were to ask it of you, and I don't have a lot of time, what the Salvation Army does, I'd hear we ring a red bell. But what do we do with what we get when we ring that bell? Currently, our Corps offers many programs and activities of a recreational nature for both children and adults. We also provide a wide range of social services programs. We are of the opinion that the acquisition of the Chandler Newburgh Center is a win-win for this entire community because the recreation programs and activities will remain. They may even grow.
Paula, I'm sorry, I need you to wrap it up.
I'm sorry. But please, should you consider selling the property, we would very much like to have the opportunity to talk to you and explore all the possibilities, because it could be and it would be a very positive thing to happen in this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Therese McGuire, and I live up the street from Alderman Nguyen on Hinman Avenue. I appreciate the budget difficulties the city of Evanston is in these days, as are most of the public entities around the country. As you think or consider where to make cuts in the budget, I want to suggest two questions that you ask yourself. Is the service or facility providing access or benefits to the neediest in our society that you're thinking of cutting? And is the service facility helping to retain taxpayers in the city? I think with respect to Chandler, the answer to both questions is yes. It serves the neediest in our society and it retains taxpayers in the city. I'm here as a spokesman for women's basketball. This year, 4 women's teams based out of Chandler-Newburgh, who we met one another in Chandler-Newburgh, competed in the National Senior Olympics in Houston. I'm going to ask those teams to stand up right now. Those from the Windy City Thunder. Second City Storm. Hoopla. And the Chicago North Stars. Not only do we practice at Chandler-Newburgh and scrimmage at Chandler-Newburgh, we met one another at Chandler-Newburgh. Several years ago, at the instigation of some staff members there, they said, let's see what kind of interest there is in basketball in this community.
I do need you to wrap up.
And they ran a course for on basketball for women 40 and over, and that's how we found one another. This is representing community and camaraderie among women from all walks of life in Evanston. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Amy O'Keefe. I live at 2535 Ashland in Evanston, and I'm a lifelong Evanston resident. I'm here on behalf of, I'm a member of Families for Chandler-Newburgh, here on behalf of my 4-year-old and 2-year-old who love Chandler and can't wait to go to camp there and do all sorts of other things besides just have birthday parties. But I support both the preservation of the Chandler-Newburgh as a city-run facility, as well as support all of the recreation facilities and programs here in the city of Evanston. I strongly believe that changing the land use of the Chandler-Newburgh site would be an irreversible mistake, that our density here in Evanston and the lack of available land virtually ensures that any loss of recreational space on the Chandler site would be permanent, and it would really result in the loss of recreation programs that many here in Evanston enjoy, and that loss would be felt by generations to come. So in closing, I ask for your support today to remove Chandler from the list of 39 items under consideration to close the city's budget gap.
Thank you. Next is Jamie Vahosky, Marriott Lynch, Deborah Greenberg, and Kirk Moffett. Oh, Kirk, you already. Yeah. Bless you, you're on there twice.
Hi, I'm Jamie Vahofsky, 2213 Noyes Street. I'm a co-founder of Families for Chandler-Newburgh. Why have over 500 residents signed our petition, and many are here tonight wanting to speak because we're outraged at the comments and proposals made by the city manager devaluing the importance of recreation in our community. When Mayor Tisdall asked for teen programs to be created on weekend evenings to combat teen violence, who responded with free bus service, free roller skating, volleyball, and basketball? Chandler-Newburgh and the Recreational Board. If Robert Crown is to be sold and run privately, who will absorb their programs and community members? Chandler-Newburgh and Fleetwood Jourdain. Why does a rec center have to have a niche, as the city manager proposes? Chandler fills several niches while remaining user-friendly to all people in all wards. The intangible benefits of Chandler and all our recreation centers in this city are too many to count. We can talk dollars and cents all day, but it all comes down to having a healthy community that we are proud to live in. Do not fix what is not broken. I invite all those who are here tonight in support of keeping Chandler Newburger as a recreation center to please stand. Thank you.
Thank you. You did that in less than 45 seconds. Congratulations.
Good evening. My name is Marie Lynch. I'm a co-founder of Families for Chandler Newburger. I'm at 2020 Isabella. The budget should reflect the priorities of the city, which of course should reflect the priorities of its residents. Don't be fooled. The sale of the land does not reflect the desires or the priority of these citizens and should not be part of our budget. Can we afford the loss of a community center? Well, the most recent strategic plan for recreation was done over 12 years ago. We don't have a current needs assessment. Not one of the 175 recommendations to close the budget deficit submitted by residents included the sale of Chandler. Not one. And yet we sit here tonight at the very beginning of a budget discussion discussing the sale of property without any citizen support, no recreational needs assessment, and a memo putting it on a list of 39 items. That just isn't right. We live in a dense urban town that is landlocked, and if the land is sold, any gain will be short-lived, especially with no ongoing property taxes, especially if sold to a not-for-profit. Please vote this evening to remove Chandler from consideration for sale, to endorse the continuing use of the property for the city's recreation needs, and begin planning for recreational needs for our kids and our kids' kids.
Thank you.
Let's find other items on the list of 175 to close the budget deficit. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Deborah Greenberg. I'm at 1319 Lincoln, and I'm a member of Families for Chandler Newburger. Chandler Newburger participant fees currently cover 93% of expenditures. The city therefore contributes just $63,000 annually, or 84 cents per resident, to keep the facility operational. If the city can no longer afford the support, the community must explore all feasible options to reduce reliance on this small subsidy before any consideration is given to closing the facility. Chandler Newburger's mission supports critical elements of the City of Evanston strategic plan. With almost 8,000 program and camp registrations annually and programs serving children ages birth through adults, Chandler regularly engages Evanston youth and young adults to become active and productive citizens of the Evanston community. I ask for your support today to remove Chandler from the list of 39 items under consideration to close the budget gap.
Thank you. Next is Amy O'Keefe, John Chaplain, Terry Nacy, and Andy Ware. All right, Amy O'Keefe. A lot of good people are signed up twice.
Hello, my name is John Chaplain. I live in the 5th Ward at 2141 Ridge. I'm a member of Families for Chandler Newburger. I support the preservation of Chandler as a city-run facility, as well as support all recreation facilities and programs in the city of Evanston. Chandler Newburger's facilities and programs serve the families and youth from the entire city of Evanston. Based on data pulled on participants, Chandler serves all wards nearly equally. Chandler Newburger is a city recreation facility, not a neighborhood recreation center. I ask for your support today to remove Chandler from the list of 39 items under consideration to close the budget gap. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Terry Nacy, and I am a member of Families for Chandler 100%. I support both the preservation of Chandler as a city-run facility as well as support for all recreation facilities and programs in the city of Evanston. I have seen how they're run. I have seen the kids thrilled to be there. It's a place for everyone to just have joy in their heart, and we can give that to them with this center. One thing I don't understand, I'm just going to say this really quick, is I just heard someone come up here saying they want to buy Chandler and give the same thing that we're giving. Chandler is already giving this. Why would you sell it and have someone do the same thing? I don't understand. I'm sorry, I'm emotional. I love Chandler. My child loves Chandler. My neighbors love Chandler. The city appears to be focused on youth development. It appears to be a complete odds then when we suggest to close down this facility. We need...
Terry, I'm sorry, I need you to wrap it up.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Andy Ware, Ryan Carton, Andrew Kasbrisky, William Bennett.
Good evening. My name is Andrew Kasperzicki. I'm at 1118 Colfax, and I'm also a member of Families for Chandler Newberger. Public gym and recreation space in Evanston is already far too limited to afford the loss of Chandler Newberger. As one of only 3 recreation facility gyms available to our youth through the Recreation Department, Chandler serves an important role in making sure Evanston remains an attractive city for families with children. So please, I ask for your support today to remove Chandler from the list of 39 items to close the budget gap. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Bill Bennett. I'm a resident at 1738 Chicago, and these are my sons, Luke and Hunter. Our family spent $1,956 in the last year at Chandler Newberger, and we'd be willing to pay additional fees for those services, as would most of the other parents that we interact with there. And so we think it's very viable that Chandler can exist on its own and close the shortfall. We also suggest that the City Council look for creative ways, and the Chandler staff look for creative ways to add additional services. You know, Evanston's a vibrant and thriving community, and one of the things that makes it vibrant and thriving is the ability to embrace and enhance the life of young youth. And so I thought I'd invite my sons, Luke and Hunter, to say something.
We should think that we should keep Chandler Newberger open. Yeah. We do not want Chandler Newberger closed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Al Telser, you've already spoken, and you're up here again.
I really can't top that.
Oh, okay,
So,
sorry.
Council, my name is Ryan Garton. I live at 914 Asbury in Alderman Wilson's ward, and thank you for his service to the community. Before I begin, I am a member of Families for Chandler Newberger, and importantly, I'm also the Regional Commissioner for Evanston AYSO. Some of you know this as Sunday soccer, with about 2,000 kids running around on Sundays and 500 adult volunteers. And I have to first thank the Parks and Rec staff, Bob, Doug, and Jim, for all the help that they give us. Our thanks in the public forum is overdue. I support the preservation of Chandler Newberger for 3 very quick reasons. Evanston youth need more recreational activity, not less. Anyone needs to go look at the fields across town on any given Sunday and see that they are threadbare, they are dirt-worn, and they are overused. Second, Evanston facilities are significantly behind other communities. Highland Park Bubble, Skokie and its riches, or the Deerfield or Glencoe area sports complexes. We are behind. This is a quality of life. And lastly, this is what makes us a community. This is what drives revenue to this city. This is what makes us special. I urge your support of the center.
Thank you. All right, I think some of these people have already spoken, so I'm not quite clear why they're on the list. Al Telser, Sophie Carlisle, Victoria Smith-Halloran, Lori Keenan. Lori hasn't spoken.
Hi, my name is Laura Keenan. I live at 2214 Colfax Street. I'm here in support of Chandler Newberger. I'm also in support of the libraries and other programs that benefit the community members of Evanston. As we continue discussions like this, it's a little, I think, disingenuous to float ideas and then put them out to the council when they aren't suggested by the community members. I'd like to find out if we're really doing an across-the-board review of community centers, what percentage the Levy Center operates at. Why are we continuing to pay $11,000 for awnings for private businesses? Why would we not consider selling parking garages but consider selling community centers? If we're going to put $1.8 million into improving our parking garages, maybe we should privatize those. Maybe that's something the community members of Evanston wouldn't feel so strongly about. But in Wally's memo, he says it's not a good time to sell them, yet it's a good time to sell the Chandler Center. I think if we're going to really value our community members, we need to value the things that we hold dear, the fabric of our community, the things that we chose to live in Evanston for.
Thank you. Thomas Dragansky, Sarah Thurber, Linda Slank, and Andrew Schultz. My apologies for your names getting massacred.
My name is Linda Slavic. I'm 1319 Greenwood Street in Evanston. I'm a board member of Actors Gym. Actors Gym supports keeping Noyes Cultural Center open as a center for cultural arts and strongly recommends a longer-range plan for the arts in Evanston. We appreciate Mayor Tisdall's commitment to keep all arts organizations and artists in Evanston. Actors Gym is part of a letter of interest to explore the possibility of purchasing Noyes. Actors Gym looks forward to seeing real numbers, cost figures to understand if it is a viable option that can work to serve the needs of all the Noyes tenants and organizations. If the purchase option does not work out, we do hope that the City Council will also review continuing to run and manage Noyes. Even with the projected capital cost, we believe that the center could continue to house the arts and be a healthy profit center. We look forward to partnering with the city and all the arts organizations in Evanston to keep Noyes open as a cultural arts center and developing long-range plans for the arts in Evanston.
Thank you.
Hi, Thomas Dragansky, 2228 Wesley. As said before, if money is an issue, perhaps charge more. While I don't like this option for our lower income residents, it is better than closing down altogether. The all or none options trouble me. If philosophy is the issue, then I want to know where the groundswell is coming from to close these centers. If there is none, I ask that you curb your philosophies. We elect people to manage the services, not decide whether we deserve them. Thank you.
I'm Sarah Thurber. I'm at 1725 Chancellor, and I'm a member of Families for Chandler Newberger. I have a talking point that says, recreation space is a critical element of maintaining our property values and competitive attractiveness. 14 years ago, we moved here because there's a little park just down the alley. My kids go to private school, so they're not in the public school, but they are in the public parks. That's where they became Evanstonians. We're AYSO members, we're Circus Arts members, we grew up in the parks, and the notion of taking away a Chandler Newberger or taking away a Noyes, it's a misunderstanding of how people identify with and love this city. I appreciate the importance of fiscal responsibility, but I think we need to look at that word recreation, and is what we're really cutting recreation, or is what we're really threatening community? I think if we can solve for that and then parse out what we need to cut, that would be great. So in closing, I ask for your support to remove Chandler from the list of 39 items.
Hi, my name's Andrew Schultz, and I'm a member of Families for Chandler Newberger. I live at 2335 Central Park Avenue. And I think Evanston, generally the weather is great here in the summer, except for today. But in the winter, we're inside about half the time. We had 4-foot snow drifts. We can't play outside regularly. It's too cold. And then I look around and I see a lot of kids that are obese. They're not exercising enough. They're not active. These kids, they need to be active. If we close another center, where are these children going to be active? Or are we just going to end up with more obese kids and obesity rates continuing to rise? So I ask everybody to continue to support Chandler and to keep it open. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Ann Weber, Cheryl Chamberlain, Kevin O'Connor, and Meredith Reeves.
Good evening. My name is Meredith Reeves. I'm a resident of 2208 Noyes Street in Evanston. And I look up here And I see a group of people, some of whom seem to be paying close attention, and others who might seem just slightly disinterested, as if they've heard it all before. But I feel the need to remind each and every single one of you that you are voted officials in this city, and the people of Evanston have put you in this place. And not for 1 minute did they imagine that you would put a sense of community on the chopping block for the citizens of this town. Not for 1 minute. There is no reason that this group of people should be sitting here taking time away from their family to discuss this. It is your obligation to maintain the city of Evanston in the position that it is in with quality, healthy recreation for our residents. Absolutely your obligation. This is unacceptable. Every one of you needs to think about that before you cast your vote. It is important that you pay close attention. Just remember, voted in.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Chamberlain. I'm at 2145 Forest View, and it's hard coming at the tail end of all of these people because they've said just about everything. That being said, I definitely support keeping Chandler, and I think that it's imperative that services within the city at least stay as they are or increase. Because take a look at it. If you read the police blotter for the past 2 years, our kids have gone from knocking over flower pots to holding people up by gunpoint or stealing cars. There is absolutely no reason as a city that we can't find other avenues to save money. We all have sat there, well, not all of us, but many of us have gone over these budgets line item by line item. And you know that there are places where we can trim and in exchange keep our community centers open. Because it all boils down to people staying here, and they're not going to stay if we don't have a place for our kids to be safe and healthy and out of trouble. And that's
Thank
all I
you.
have to say.
Kevin O'Connor, 1227 and a half Isabella. There is no budget gap or deficit. However, there are misplaced spending priorities and an unacceptable status quo with this council and city manager. Tonight, we are giving $11,500 to Hecky's Barbecue's landlord for facade improvement, $100,000 to Gordon Food Service for redevelopment of 2424 Oakton Street. Again, we spend money that allegedly we don't have for libraries, recreation centers, or numerous other resident needs and services for private businesses. Shame on this council. Thank you.
Next is Larry Raphael and Mark Metz. Either way, Mark.
Hello, my name is Larry Raffel. I live at 3509 Central Street, and I am a member, as is Mark, of the Park and Recreation Board. And at our last meeting in June, we voted unanimously to send a letter to the mayor and the city council strongly opposing the closing, adaptive reuse, or outright sale of any community center or parkland here in the city. And since the public didn't get a chance to look at this letter, I would like to just briefly talk about 2 points in the letter. And the first is being that numerous studies have shown the economic benefits that parks and community centers have on a city as well as adjacent residential properties. Not only do they increase property values and municipal revenues, they are good financial investment for community. And like schools, transportation systems, municipal services, a comprehensive park system with strategically located community recreation centers attract individuals, families, and businesses. And then the benefits, as has been suggested here before, go well beyond economics. For a city that cares about its residents, community centers provide activities for teens that might not otherwise have a safe place to go, and that's very, very important. They accommodate sports, crafts, theaters, educational classes, and camp programs. And one of the points that was made at our board meeting, which I feel was hit me very strongly, is that in a time when people are having their own financial difficulties, the community center is often their support system in everything from child care to leisure activities. And in just kind of wrapping that up, I feel that, and the board does too, because we put this in a letter, so I'm not speaking simply on my
Larry, I
own.
need you to wrap up.
Closing any recreation center is simply short-sighted and misguided.
Thank you.
My name is Mark Metz. I live at 2125 Sherman Avenue, and I appear before you with a fresh coating of James Park baseball dirt tonight, so forgive me. I've been on the Playground and Recreation Board for about 10 years, and this is one of the few times I remember such strong unanimity of the board, your board, that is constructed to advise you, the council, on matters pertaining to recreation and so forth. And the board feels very strongly, as do I. The points Larry made, are right on target. If we're serious about the long-term health, the long-term economic development of our community, we can't be serious about closing recreation facilities. We're behind. One of the earlier speakers said we're behind. We're way behind other communities, and we know that. We can't be considering closing what we have. We have to find ways to actually get more with less. So I strongly urge you for that reason, and others. Just to mention one, the whole initiative that the city's in right now to get kids off the street and provide positive recreational activities for kids as a way to help keep crime down, in no way fits in with any plan to close recreation centers. So I strongly urge you to back away from this plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Richard Halstead, Jack Lerman, Dory Stein, and Eb Moran. All right. Eb Moran did not speak. All right. Hold on, Richard. Yeah. Why did he?
I'm Eb Moran. I live at 2522 Isabella Street. Our government has been described as being of, by, and for the people. The challenges of budgetary restraint extend across the governmental landscape from the halls of Congress in Washington to this very room. However, how a city chooses to govern and to foster community assets can be particularly telling because there is no beyond the beltway here. The experience of Evanston citizens within this community is heavily impacted by the decisions that you, their representatives, make in these chambers. Excellence in government can be measured in many different ways. A talented and dedicated workforce is very important to favorable outcomes. But in numerous and important ways, the mission of that workforce is measured by the citizens of Evanston and not by the administration of government at 2100 Ridge Avenue and the many other locations within the city. Where the citizens most directly experience the impact of that work is in the community, at a library, at a park, on a playfield. It is those experiences that mold the image of a city in its citizens' eyes. It is important for this council to recognize that the citizen experience in Evanston is an important measure of success of the city operation, and a strong argument can be made that it is the quality of the citizen experience that is the most fundamental of all measures of municipal success or failure. I would ask that salaries and benefits and pensions, I would suggest that salaries, benefits, and pensions are essential ingredients to urban success. But I would ask that all of you consider whether your neighbor's sense of how well Evanston is doing is and will be predicated upon salaries, not upon salaries or pensions, but upon their impressions of how well the city is doing in activities that I would describe as closer to home.
We need you to wrap it up, please.
Senior citizens enjoying their golden years, are kids active, healthy, happy, and well-educated? Is there a strong menu of adult activities in culture, transportation, recreation? Do businesses thrive, grow, and provide jobs for Evanston? It is my hope that you, our representatives, will not lose sight of the forest from the trees, that you will ardently pursue a course of action that every citizen will find constructive and a source of deep and lasting community pride. Thank you.
Doré Stein, 505 Hinman, and I am a low-income disabled resident, and I'm here to talk about the administrative hearings for towing. The city is said that they have 51% responsibility of proof. Well, as we know today, for example, the power was out. Power was out, and I did not wake up in the morning, and I was told that was not an acceptable excuse. And then another time, my car was towed. I went to the tow hearing. I brought pictures showing that I had been at a funeral the day before. It was on my ticket that there had been a storm, and all the paper signs were down. I still got fined. So I'm wondering, why have these hearings? And at $150 a tow, that's a lot of money. And now you want to close my cooling centers? You want to sell them off? I can't afford air conditioning, and I have a condition where I often wind up in the hospital in hot weather. I go to Robert Crown. I go to Chandler. I go to the library, and now you want to close them, and I'm out $300 when the power was out. I mean, it actually said on my ticket, the signs were down, the power was out, and when I went to pick up my car at the tow place, the tow guy said, go to the city, go to a tow hearing. I mean, the signs were down,
Ms.
the power
Stein,
was out. Okay.
You're out of time, and I would suggest that you please talk with the Assistant City Manager, Marty Lyons. Marty.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Mayor.
Good luck. Next is Linda Bala, Joanna Pinsky, Junad Rizki, and Padma Rao.
Good evening. My name is Linda Bala. I live in the First Ward at 800 Elgin. My husband and I retired to Evanston because of its beautiful beaches, clean tree-lined streets, safe, well-kept downtown, and a vibrant senior center. We have heard through the grapevine that our city manager would like to privatize as many city services as possible to save money. We fear that he has a very short memory because he already tried that with the Groot contract and ended up costing the city $700,000 more than it bargained for. We are willing to pay more taxes as long as we can see the improvements that we are paying for. It is public workers who provide those improvements. We do not want public workers to be demonized Scott Walker style. They are the ones who have given us the beautiful beaches and the safe tree-lined streets and the beautiful gardens and the great senior center. Our public workers really care about our city, and they are willing to go the extra mile. They have been cross-trained to assist each other's departments in emergencies. They have agreed to pay freezes and furlough days for the past 2 years to help this city. Do you think that private companies will agree to cross-train other private companies? Do you think that they will take furloughs and pay freezes? My husband and I really doubt it. But most of all, privatization is not what Evanston is about. Evanston is about helping our neighbor, nurturing a middle class, and supporting public workers.
I need you to wrap up now.
Evanston has a reputation for doing the right thing and not following the national trend. So let's save our Evanston public services.
My name is Joanna Pinsky. I live at 1223 Grant Street, and I'm the artistic director of Art Encounter in the Noyes Center. The power is out, not only in my home, but at Noyes. And I'm afraid that is the electrical power. I'm afraid that the power may also be out for the artists at the Noyes Center. I've heard, and I'm really upset, that there seems to be some dealings with 4 residents, 4 different organizations that might buy the Noyes Center, and many of us have been left out of the loop, and I'm quite upset about that. I want to emphasize that there are 20 individual artists and different organizations in Evanston that represent different arts. And again, I would like to emphasize how valuable it is. The artists are business people. Many of the organizations hire artists. In these economic times, it would be terrible for these artists to lose their jobs too. And while the 4 organizations are in the arts, they're not the only representatives of the arts. So I urge you to look at all the different possibilities. There are many ideas for keeping noise solvent.
Thank you.
Janad Risky. I think if we talk about $100,000, I don't believe anybody on this council should have medical benefits. You can all give that up, and I mean, I'm not going to go into the whole details, but you don't need medical benefits. I think it's time to eliminate that. I don't believe the city manager is dealing with the real budget issues, which are the police and the fire and the water department. He's ignoring them in his budget. It's my belief capital's been wasted here, probably not hundreds, probably $10 million or more. And we're in the last meeting, you're talking about building bicycle shelters. It's ridiculous. And frankly, the $700,000 for the yard waste sticker screw-ups, that could have paid for the libraries, that could have paid for these recreation centers. And you can't pick that up in your budget. I mean, I've heard, we were at the Ecology Center, and they've got a list of reasons that's claimed why it wasn't a problem. And I guess what I'll say is I offered this once to the council members. They wanted to come talk to me about some of the issues in my living room. I'll offer it to any resident, because I can give you a very long list of things here that are messed up that need to be fixed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, may I concede my time to my mother?
Yes, you may.
Thank you.
B.K. Rao, 2246 Sherman Avenue. The last council meeting was interesting. So much time was spent debating about the township budget. Items were discussed, questions were raised, answers were expected. For the first time, I realized that there were 9 individuals involved in the decision making. Then my thoughts went back to the Kendall re-subdivision. When the alderman said, "I," 9 times, with just one voice, like there was only one individual involved in the decision making. "I" to the killing of 24 trees. "I" to the senseless alley that dumps its traffic into a narrow street. No traffic safety study was done. No ecological study was involved. Pleas from the citizens were ignored. In fact, according to Evanston Patch, one alderman was overheard as assuring the developer's lawyer that she had the votes to push the issue through no matter what the citizens would comment. To this day, a wall of silence stands before the council regarding the Kendall issue. This reminds me of a passage I read in my high school. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. Council showed their wisdom on the township budget issue. They showed something else regarding Kendall issue. Nature killed a lot of trees today. Should the alderman add to this tree killing? Why? Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes citizen comment, unless somebody signed up that I missed, but I think people signed up twice instead of once, and that was the problem. Okay. City manager, next is a special order of business. Exploration of alternate property uses.
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Before I start my presentation, just a few comments regarding the public speakers. I think former Alderman Moran said it best when he talked about the importance of the citizen experience in Evanston. And I think it's clear from the comments made by the residents, it's clear by the deliberations that this council has almost every week, that the citizen experience and the quality of the citizen experience in Evanston is so vital. And I think really the conversation we're having this evening, the conversation that the council started really 6 months early for the budget that for the year that begins January 2012, really comes down to that citizen experience. And it comes down to a challenge I have as your city manager and that you have collectively as the elected body in Evanston to what do you do to preserve that citizen experience? What do you do in order to fund all the things that make Evanston what it is? In this past 2 years since I've been your city manager, the city council has cut $13.5 million from its budget. We have eliminated over 50 positions. We have already made several cuts, many cuts, that have impacted people's lives throughout this community. And when I came to you on March 22nd, again, 6 months before we would normally begin a discussion about the budget, I indicated that the issues we would be facing in order to balance the fiscal year 2012 budget would be significant, and certainly those discussions have begun and are continuing tonight. Much has been said about some comments that were made at a 7th Ward meeting by myself regarding the role of recreation, and I want to take just a brief moment to reiterate what I believe I said at that meeting. And that is not a matter of should we be in the business of recreation, because that answer is absolutely positively yes. It's an important part, again, going back to Alderman Moran's comments about the citizen experience in Evanston. I think the true question that this council and this community faces over the next several months is, are we in this role, and every program, and every service that we provide in recreation? And are there opportunities to look at options there? But recreational programs are a key part of what we do. And there are really two challenges to fulfilling the role of recreation in this community. One is to fund operations. And I think by and large we do a very good job of that for direct services. We have not counted the costs of indirect services, and another evening through the budget discussion we'll talk more about that. But another key challenge, and was brought up by many speakers this evening, is the funding of capital facilities. And we have not done a good job of that with new facilities, and we've certainly not done a good job of that maintaining existing facilities. So as we look at that citizen experience and we look at that quality, how do we assure that? Recreation is a key component of what we do. Police protection, fire protection, maintaining our streets. Those are all also parts of what make Evanston a special place. Forestry, the horrible, very quick storm that we've had has had many of our dedicated employees out all day, and they'll be out all night, and they'll be out all day tomorrow, because the urban forest in this community is so important. The money that we spend to maintain and protect our public trees is in the hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, but it's important to this community, and we have found ways to pay for it. So this evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council, I'd like to talk a little bit about what we can do as we move toward the creation of a budget for 2012. Again, many months prior to the normal discussion, many months prior because of the critical issues that the city of Evanston is facing. And I believe it's important to look at all the options that you have, because by looking at as many options as you can, hopefully the decisions that you will make will maintain that citizen experience in Evanston. There'll be difficult decisions, and I think it's important to look at all the options before you. So I'd like to talk a little bit this evening about 3 properties as far as the alternate uses of those properties and those alternate provisions of services. The examination of properties is not a short-term exercise, but rather a process to evaluate current uses of facilities and longer-term issues associated with each property. The city has substantial real estate in Evanston: the Lorraine H. Morton Civic Center, our Public Works Service Center, our Police and Fire Headquarters, our Howard Street Police Substation, our Senior Center, 2 libraries, 5 fire stations, 3 community centers, 2 art centers, an ecology center, 25 parking lots, 3 parking decks, 76 parks, 50 playgrounds, and other miscellaneous paths, gardens, beach, and green areas. The City Council has had extensive discussion in recent years over the future of some of these facilities, such as the Civic Center and Main Library, which hopefully have now been settled. The City has already decided to construct a replacement Robert Crown Center, for which planning underway. It would be difficult to evaluate the merits of each of our 76 parks for other uses, and I believe the economy does not support exploration of leasing or selling any of our parking assets at this time. I do believe there are very few instances where the sale of city-owned property makes sense. The idea of selling property just to gain one-time revenue to cover current deficits makes no sense whatsoever. However, I believe there are criteria that can be applied to the city's real estate holdings to determine if it makes sense to explore alternate uses or alternate provision of services on properties that it could in turn include long-term leases and, under the most unusual circumstances, outright sale of the property. With the budget issues the city is facing for 2012, I believe it is prudent to consider such a discussion on a select group of properties. We talk in Evanston about enjoying our discussions and enjoying public deliberations. This evening is meant to be a first step. There may be no additional steps for some of these alternatives. But again, in order for this council to have maximum flexibility to maintain the citizen experience in this community, I believe it's important that we look at all options. We'll be talking about the Chandler Neuberger Center, the Noyes Cultural Arts Center, and the Harley Clark Mansion. I've talked a little bit about what the background for this is concerned. Again, I think selling property just to gain one-time revenue to cover current deficits makes no sense whatsoever, and I absolutely agree with those folks who have come before us tonight and have said just that. I think that there are criteria that can be used when looking at these properties. One is, are there individuals and organizations that would be interested in the use of the property? Is the property in good condition and requires minimal improvements for use? Conversely, is the property in poor condition and requires significant improvement for long-term use? Are there other individuals and organizations that currently provide same or similar services in Evanston provided at city property from other non-city facilities in Evanston? And is there something especially unique about the property, its location, historic nature, et cetera, that makes it attractive for alternate uses? So when I looked at these properties and chose 3 to bring before you this evening, those were some of the criteria that I thought made sense for discussion. The first is the Chandler Neuberger Center. Again, here's an aerial photograph just to acquaint you with the area specifically. Multiple owners of property around it. Here is the center itself there. This parcel here where the American Legion post is on is, according to our title search, owned by the Evanston Wilmette Golf Association. As a separate parcel. The parcels that the course is on itself here are owned by the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District. Here is a golf maintenance yard that is used by the course. Here are some holdings from the hospital, and then you have the L station here, the hospital here, fire station across the street. Some photographs, as you've heard, a variety of different recreation programs provided there, athletics, summer camps, other programs. The building was built in 1980, so it is among the newer buildings in our inventory. Again, I think the 3 areas that cause this as a piece of real estate to be looked at are its location, its adjacency, to the L, the newer condition of the building, and I believe the multiple options for use. If you look at our other community centers at Fleetwood Jourdain and at Crown, we've already settled on a future for Crown, and again on Fleetwood, I believe the location and the age of that facility do not lend itself for these other multiple options. The second facility is the Noyes Cultural Arts Center. This is a facility that the city has owned since 1980. The original mission of Noyes was to provide long and short-term work and exhibition space to artists and art organizations representing all disciplines, cultures, and stages of development. It is dedicated to fostering high-quality creative activity that is diverse and accessible to all. Since then, the center has become home to several resident companies as well as individual artists. There are currently 32 organizations and groups renting there. Again, to give you an aerial of the facility, again, I think you're all pretty familiar with it. Here's Noyes Street, the facility, the former Noyes School, and you have Talmadge Park adjacent to that. The businesses here along Noyes Street, and then you have the Central Street L at the edge of the parking facility there. Some photographs, in addition to the resident artists that are there, the City of Evanston puts on arts programs. This gives you some sense of the deterioration at the building. While the Chandler Neuberger Center is in largely good condition, the Noyes Cultural Arts Center is facing several $100,000 of deferred maintenance, in addition to things that we would think we would need to be doing as we move forward. The city has not been able to devote much money on the capital side to those expenses, and as we look at our budgets and over $100 million in capital debt that we are basically paying interest and very little principal on as we move forward. It's going to be difficult to find the capital associated with maintaining the facility in the long term. Again, the Noyes Cultural Arts Center, its unique location, I think, makes it a point for consideration. The deteriorating condition of the building and our inability to make the investments that we need to, and also the interest in other operating, owner and operating models. As I mentioned in my staff report, on June 6, 2011, the city received a letter from the leaders of the Piven Theater Workshop, the Next Theater Company, Actor Gymnasium, and the Evanston Arts Center, expressing their interest in pursuing discussions with the city for the possible acquisition of Noyes as a permanent home for their organizations. Mayor Tisdall and I met this afternoon with a large group of the resident companies as well as some individual artists there, and I think they all expressed an interest in pursuing perhaps other models that would allow not only the resident companies to continue to make capital investments at the facility, but also it was made loud and clear the interests of the individual artists, and the mayor made it very clear at that meeting from her perspective that any changes that would be made at Noyes would make sure to protect all of the existing occupants that they could remain in the city of Evanston. The last is the Harley Clark Mansion. The Harley Clark Mansion is part of the properties at the Lighthouse Landing, and this map I think can really helps illustrate the different parties that are at play here. You can see the mansion here at the center of the screen. You have the Arts Center Coach House, which is 2 apartments and some garages here. This is all on a parcel of land separately owned by the city of Evanston. It was purchased from a national fraternity, the Sigma Chi National Fraternity, in 1963. So this parcel here is separate and apart from other parcels that make up the Lighthouse Landing area. This parcel here along the bottom, which contains the Lighthouse Keeper House and the lighthouse itself, as well as the 2 fog houses, this property was deeded to the city by the federal government in the 1920s or 1930s. There are significant restrictions on that property from the deed from the federal government that makes alternate uses very difficult. In addition, there is a lease between the city and the Lighthouse Park District for approximately this part of that parcel, which includes the Lighthouse Keeper House and the lighthouse itself. So those are a second parcel below. Above it is another parcel, which is largely open space parkland, which is owned by the Lighthouse Parks District. And then you have another parcel of land to the north, Lawson Park and Noah's Playground, which is owned by the city of Evanston. I'll also point out with this parcel here is the beach area. So you have beach parcel here with the Lighthouse Landing Park District, but the large part of the Lighthouse Beach area is on this parcel here that includes the Harley Clark Mansion, the Arts Center, and Coach House. Some photographs. The lease that we have with the Evanston Arts Center, which is the current occupant, a long-time occupant, basically gives the responsibility for interior improvements to the Arts Center and exterior improvements to the city of Evanston. And as you can see casually from these photographs, there are exterior improvements that are needed, have been budgeted for several years, and have not been funded. So that remains a challenge for us to find the capital dollars in order to maintain this beautiful building. This gives you some pictures of the interior. So again, looking at why this property makes sense, I think, to have additional discussions. Again, its unique location on the lakefront, the continuing deteriorating condition of the main building, and then the interest in other operating ownership models. As I mentioned in the staff report, we have had discussions, staff has had discussions with the Evanston Arts Center. They are interested in looking at perhaps a different model for their continuing to stay at the at the Lighthouse Landing properties. They're also interested in additional space at the Noyes Cultural Arts Center. There has also been other interest from other parties for other uses. As when the city bought the building, it was a national fraternity. Because of the access and the parking, I think it is limited by the types of uses that it could have there, but certainly there would be other uses that might be compatible at that site. So you have those three properties. And again, it's important for me to stress the reason for bringing this to you in July for a budget that will be presented in October, for deliberations that will happen in November and December, and that is to look at options, to look at what is it going to take to balance a budget. We are still projecting, we'll be coming back to you next Monday evening with our most current projections. We are still looking at $3.5 million to make up with the budget for fiscal year 2012. That's without property tax increases. We are still looking at what potentially additional costs for health care will be next year, what additional costs for retirement benefits, not only through IMRF, but our police and fire pensions. So the purpose of the discussion this evening is to look at options. We would ask that you consider authorizing me to pursue the alternate uses, alternate provision of services at one or more of these properties, and then provide other directions to staff as you think appropriate. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I don't have a question, but I do have a comment that I want to make. I believe, since you're looking for direction, from my perspective, that Chandler should be removed from the list. I do not believe that closing a community center can be equated with the situation for the art centers. I think that if we were going to close a community center, which I do not believe we should have clear, transparent criteria that applies to a community center. The art centers, as alderman of the 7th Ward for many years, I told the art center that we could not repair that building, that it was in terrible shape, and that I advised them that they would have to look elsewhere eventually or buy it from us. That building is in totally different condition than the Chandler Center, and no one has been telling the Chandler folk for the last 6 years that they needed to look elsewhere. So the Art Center has said that they are interested in moving, and I think we should proceed with the sale of that building. And I am actively trying to market it, but I do not believe that a community center is a similar situation, and the children who go to the Chandler Center have no place else to go. The artists can all be accommodated in the city of Evanston and can be accommodated together. So I absolutely agree with your plan to look at buildings, and I am providing my input that I would have a terrible time. Cannot imagine that I would ever be able to sign off on closing the Chandler Center. Alderman Wilson.
Thank you. And I guess mine aren't questions either, it's more comments. But having spent a good bit of time in the Chandler building, there's nothing special about the building, but what's special is about what happens there. And I think that we should be looking for ways to find more things for kids to do. And I do believe that maintaining the streets infrastructure and the safety is the first priority, but the number one goal should be to maintain the quality of life in Evanston. And whether it's the ball field, the parks, Chandler, the Arts Center, whatever it is, these are the places where the good things happen in the community. And these are the things that bring people together. It doesn't have to be sports, it can be arts, it can be anything. But these community centers are what drives us as a community. I don't know if I can make a motion, but I propose or move that we decline the request to affirmatively pursue these alternative uses. I don't think we should adopt this as a policy matter. If someone brings us a specific good idea, for example, if somebody wants to buy the mansion and they want to offer to purchase it, then I think we should entertain something like that. But I'm not at all interested in selling or changing the use of the Chandler Newberger Center, and I move that we decline the request.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Alderman Grover?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and may I say thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with everything you've said. I had a couple of questions, actually. Looking at the maps, I understood for a long time that the Grosse Pointe Lighthouse area was a conglomeration of different ownerships and control of those. Is the building a landmark building, the Harley Clark? It is.
Yes.
All right. And my question about Chandler Newberger goes to the parking lot. I understood that the city owned the parking lot, but it appears from the map that the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District owns the parking lot immediately adjacent to Chandler at its north end.
Alderman Grover, members of the council. I think that these issues have been casually discussed over a long period of time. I think that in anticipation of the discussions this evening, we've gone and actually brought out the maps. And so this is our best understanding of the topography of the parcels as they lie. I don't have a better explanation other than this is what the deeds say.
All right. And then information that's been brought to my attention about Chandler from Evanston Hospital. I just learned this week that Evanston Hospital had a lot to do with building and funding the playground, which is just south of Chandler, on Lincoln. And as kind of an accessory use for Evanston Hospital's Child Care Center, which it houses at 1000 Central Street in that medical office building. And as part of its understanding with the city of Evanston, Evanston Hospital, and with per Illinois Department of Children and Family Services regulations, the hospital's child care center needs to have outdoor play area for its child care center. And the understanding with the city of Evanston is that if we discontinue the use of that as a playground, that we're affirmatively obliged to help North Shore University Health Systems find alternative space for its child care center. That's just additional information. The child care center serves Evanston families, employs Evanston residents as well. I have a lot more to say about Chandler, but I've seconded Alderman Wilson's motion, so perhaps we could move forward on the motion.
Well, I have several more speakers who want to speak to the issue. Alderman Holmes.
My question is to the city manager in terms of the mansion. Looking at the map, if I'm looking correctly and following the red outline, it starts then at Sheridan and goes all the way back to the lake. So is that what would be your recommendation for sale? Or just the part that the mansion sits on?
And Alderman Holmes, members of the council, all I would like is authorization to ponder and to talk and to see what options might be available. I mean, clearly, access to the beach area here is critical for that ongoing operation of the Lighthouse Beach area. So, my sense is that if there was an alternate circumstance for the buildings here, that we perhaps could carve out this parcel in a way that would, leave the parking, or at least some ability to keep the parking, but certainly the access to the beachfront. But again, no work has really been formally done on this.
I understand that part, but I'm just thinking in terms of your thinking, so that it's sort of all on the table in terms of how
that's correct.
You would go. Okay, fine.
I am trying to sell it without including a blade of grass. If no one else wants to speak to the Chandler issue, we could proceed and vote on it. Otherwise, I have Alderman Burris, Alderman Nguyen, and Alderman Fisk down. Did any of you?
I'll pass.
Did you want to speak to Chandler, or could we go ahead and vote on that one?
I'm not sure that was Alderman Wilson's motion, though. It was beyond that, wasn't it?
That's what I thought, too.
My motion was a bit broader than that.
Yes.
And,
that's what I thought.
Oh, you want to remove them all?
Yeah.
Well, really, I don't want to sell Chandler, and I don't want to change the use of it. With regard to the other two properties, or any property, to me, what happened tonight reflects that this isn't the way to do things. it throws people into a panic. It causes a great deal of distress in the community. The people mentioned the grapevine. The grapevine starts growing branches all over the place, and we've probably all been fielding calls with just questions about things that I'd never even heard of. And that's challenging for everybody because people are upset and people are not understanding what's going on. People are afraid that there are secret meetings. People are afraid things are happening that they have no control over and that they're not aware of, and frankly, that are not proper. And I don't think that's actually what happened. I strongly believe that is not at all what happened, and the city manager followed our directive. He is looking for ways to cut the budget and find money for the city. That's what we asked him to do. He has a responsibility to bring ideas to us, and I appreciate the fact that he did that. He just happened to bring an idea that I don't like in this particular instance. But I want more ideas, and I want those ideas to continue, so this is not a criticism in any way. But with regard to the other two properties, if there is something or someone who's interested in making some sort of arrangement, and that can be put together, I know the mayor had a meeting today, but there are apparently other people who weren't part of that.
Everyone who wanted to be part of that meeting was part of that meeting. I refused to meet with just the 4 groups, so that individual artists who wanted to come, people who were not a member of the 4 groups, were invited. Anyone who wanted to come came.
Okay.
Anyone who contacted me and said that they wanted to come was invited.
So
They were there.
I'll amend my motion with the suggestion that we entertain a second motion, but the first one would be first to limit it to Chandler Newburgh, and that we remove Chandler Newburgh from the list for consideration.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Does anyone want to speak to that? Alderman Rainey.
I fully support removing Chandler, but I don't believe this is the end of things. And unless we do something more, this very same discussion will be taking place next year, and you'll all be back. So I think the important thing to do is not to just make a very heroic motion to not close Chandler, but to make a motion not to close Chandler and going forward to form an advisory group of some kind of the families to save Chandler, with staff and with other members of the community to find ways so that this doesn't happen again, because it's going to happen again. I mean, we're all going to have to look for every way we can think of to save money, not spend money, especially on capital buildings, et cetera. So I just think that we're going to have to be realistic and think of ways to move forward and go forward with Chandler for the next 25 years. I think just to send the city manager a message not to sell Chandler is not enough. That's what I'm saying.
Thank you. Alderman Holmes.
I just wanted to say that I think, we do have an obligation to listen to the citizens, and I think the citizens, I would hope the citizens would trust us enough to know that the question has to be asked, and we have to sit up here and discuss it. And I get very discouraged as an individual and as an Evanston resident that there's not that kind of trust, and that really troubles me in terms of issues. We're going to have many more issues that will come before us that will certainly, whether it's a Chandler, it may be a Fleetwood, it may be a Levy Center, it may be whatever. And the question has to be asked. And I think that you elected us to listen and to listen to all the facts and discuss it and not make, I know Alderman Wilson was saying it, it makes people a little bit crazy because of the rumor mill. But everyone that has called me, I have said, I've never heard that before. We haven't even discussed it. The meeting isn't until July 11th. And I think that, I hope that the citizens are hearing this, that we really do listen and we really do read what you send to us. And I hope that you will trust that. I just needed to say that because it's very troubling to me.
Thank you. Alderman Fisk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I'm certainly willing to instruct the city manager not to sell Chandler, ever. If it blows away, we'll rebuild it. But it's such a value to the community. And you look at the maps, you look at the usage. I have to tell you that in my basement, in a pile of old clothes that belonged to my son when he was little, are Chandler T-shirts dating back to God knows when, in various colors. Floor hockey, basketball. It's just such a resource to the young families in the north end of my neighborhood, and who depend on it, who love it, and who treasure it the same way that you do. And that, to me, is wonderful to see over so many years, families still coming out, still supporting it. And I simply could never support closing it in any way. So, Alderman Wilson, I support your motion.
Thank you. If that's everyone who wants to speak on the issue of Chandler, City Clerk, it's a money issue, so let's have a roll call vote.
What are we voting on?
So what's the motion?
Just
Just
save
save
Alderman
Chandler,
Wilson's
don't do
motion.
anything
Would you
about
restate?
The special order of business is the city manager's request to explore alternative uses for, or the possible sale, I suppose, for these three properties. So my motion is that we decline the city manager's request to explore the alternative uses or sale of the Chandler Newburgh Center.
Did everyone hear that? All right, City Clerk?
You said all uses, or, I mean, that includes then the other two as well, the way you stated it.
Of Chandler Newburgh. I'm just talking about Chandler Newburgh. I'm probably going to make another motion.
Well, that's fine, but
Yeah,
I mean,
but-
I'm just,
but
the way
right,
you
the first
stated
one-
it, it said his alternative usage.
Of Chandler Newburgh.
And is what you said.
I apologize.
And.
Of or for Chandler Newburgh.
Okay, then fine.
Alderman Braithwaite?
If we can amend the motion, I agree with Alderman Rainey that in addition to removing Chandler Newburgh off the, to vote, that we should explore or direct the city staff to explore working with community groups to find ways to sustain the center beyond this year. So will you accept, can we make an amendment to the motion, is my question.
Alderman Wilson, would
Right.
you?
Strange as it sounds, I'm not inclined to do that because of the following reason. I think that the city staff has an obligation for every single property in the city to work with the citizens to do that. So I don't think we could form a committee for every property. I know that there's a group of people working on Gray Park that's not involving city funds. There's been people that have gotten together for Larimer Park, and we've given them no city funds. So nevertheless, the city staff continues to work with people on each of those parcels. So I think that it's an obligation that exists for every single property in the city. So I don't want to change the motion to make Chandler special. I think it applies to every single property in the city.
All right, are we ready to vote?
Yes.
Let's light on down.
I'm sorry, Alderman Rainey.
Well, I'd like a ruling on whether or not that's an amendment to the motion. I'm not so sure that it changes the entire motion. The motion is to keep Chandler open. Alderman Braithwaite is saying, and in addition to keeping Chandler open, let's do thus and so. I do not think the city manager has an obligation necessarily to meet with every single group in the whole city of Evanston. I think we have an obligation to direct the city manager to do certain things. And this is a very specific thing. Nobody directed the city manager on this council to bring to this council the closing of Chandler. So I think sometimes he acts on his own and maybe needs a little more direction sometimes. And I'm going to support Alderman Braithwaite's motion because I think it is an amendment to the motion. And I you know, it's all right when we put together a little committee to, you know, give away the recycling center. That's okay. I think this is a very critical situation. This issue is going to come back to this council because you cannot direct future councils not to put this back on an agenda. And I don't know, the people who were here tonight said they'll do anything to help save it. Several of them said, we'll pay more taxes, we'll increase fees, whatever. We're all in this together. We're all in this together. People need to take responsibility for the things they need in this town. We all do. And I think we heard, I mean, this was an extremely impressive presentation tonight. I mean, I came in here without any preconceived notions, and after about 10 people, I mean, I was totally on their side. But one of the reasons I was on their side is because I felt they were taking responsibility for keeping Chandler open, and I think you should too.
Thank you. Alderman Braithwaite, did you withdraw your motion, or you still have your motion?
I'd still like to
Okay.
go into amendment.
All right, Alderman Fisk, and it's been moved and seconded. Did you want to speak to the motion?
I want to speak to the amendment.
The amendment, okay. Go ahead.
I would rather not support the amendment, although I
Speak to the mic.
Is your mic on?
Yeah, I'm not going to support the amendment, although I appreciate the reason for it. I do think that we've got the Park and Rec Board, and an involvement from neighbors with the Park and Recreation Board would be very helpful. I'm reluctant to have to involve the neighbors in a commitment that takes away from their daily lives. That means that you have to establish a committee, that you have to be involved in this discussion on an ongoing basis. I would rather that you apply to serve on the Park and Rec Board, that you attend their meetings, that you make your voices heard, but I think putting the challenge to you that you have to come up with various ways to keep Chandler open and viable is really not fair to citizens. I'd like you to get on with your lives. I think this is something that the city should do. You clearly will come out when we need you and make your voices heard. So I just think it's asking a lot of folks who are obviously very, very busy.
Alderman Wilson.
And I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't want to create the impression that if, for example, somebody suggests that we sell the Levy Center because it's a nice building, I don't want people to have the impression that they're going to have to do this, that they're going to have to be, going through this process, getting yard signs and paying for stickers and raising money. When I came to the meeting, I pretty much had my mind made up. I heard from a lot of people well in advance of this. And I don't think it's really necessary to put people to that kind of distress in their lives. As Alderman Fisk said, people are busy. People have things to do. People have families. People would probably not choose to be here. People would rather be at the Chandler Center doing something fun. So I don't want to create that impression that that's what is going to be required to save any given item in the city. Alderman Holmes, you make an excellent point. We're here to listen to everyone. Whether I get an email or someone stands up here and talks or calls me on the phone or whatever it is, if you leave me a voicemail, if I couldn't return all the calls today. But I get that and I listen to it all. And I believe that every single one of us does the exact same thing because I see what happens. Some people have commented they think maybe we're not paying attention. People take notes. People have materials here. But I think that we all pay very close attention and we all listen very carefully. And I don't want to create the impression that that's what's required to save something in this town.
Alderman Nguyen.
Well, I think that Alderman Wilson has very succinctly captured what I was planning to say, which is that I don't think that I think the issue that we're all concerned about is that the process by which this arrived tonight, and that we, as you said, Mayor, that we don't agree with how this arrived necessarily, and that's not to criticize the city manager. We do need to look at everything in our budget very thoroughly to understand what it is that we are going to have to choose to live without. However, I think that everyone in the community was somewhat taken by surprise at Chandler Newberger appearing on the list. So I think we're all concerned about what's the process that puts something on the list. And so I think that's what needs reexamination. I do think the support for Chandler Newberger is wonderful. And I hope it stays sustained, but it's not up to you, to keep Chandler Newburger's chin above water from one year to the next year. That's not, I mean, obviously you're participating, but if you all don't find the absolutely best solution for the next year, that doesn't mean we should close Chandler Newburger. So I think what we do need to do is come up with a better process that allows the community to be part of, a better part of how something gets put on the list to be discussed. And I think that's the concern that perhaps we're all not able to focus in on. And I'm sitting here trying to think of what is the best way to do that. And I have some ideas, but I don't have something that's crystallized enough to discuss. We do need to talk about everything. There are some issues that are perhaps more easily discussed than others. I was a member of the council along with Alderman Rainey who voted, how many years ago, Ann, to revamp our parks, and it was because our parks were deplorable, and we recognized how far behind we were from all the other communities surrounding us. We voted for revamping James Park, and that's what we all have sat through endless baseball games of. And we know what a difference that's made. So, and part of the vote years ago was because we recognized the critical aspect of recreation in our community. So every tot lot that has been revived, in the 3rd Ward, we have tot lots that have changed, communities that are entirely multifamily buildings. I mean, that's built communities. So we all know the value of recreation. So we need to figure out where that is in our priority. I think hearing from all of you, we've heard that, but we recognize that there are things that have to be on the list. We have to figure out what we're going to live without. So I think it's a matter of the process. That's why I don't agree with Alderman Braithwaite's amendment.
Thank you. Alderman Grover.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Alderman Braithwaite, for your motion, the intent behind it. I don't think I support the amendment, while I'll support Alderman Wilson's motion. And the reason is, with grateful thanks to Jamie Verhofsky and Marie Lynch, who founded Families for Chandler, and everyone who's been active and engaged in that, I expect that they'll stay active and engaged and find themselves at the table when we're discussing the planning for recreation for Chandler Newburger without a specific committee assignment. In fact, I think that the folks who've been involved in Families for Chandler will stay active and engaged in the larger context in which City Manager Bob Quitz brings to us the suggestion that an alternative use for Chandler is perhaps worthy of our study. That is, the serious budget issues that we're facing. The Families of Chandler for Chandler are well aware of our budget issues, and I think that the discussion about this one recreation center has caught their attention on these larger issues, and I think they'll stay engaged. And for that reason, I would not support the amendment to the motion. We have a recreation board and recreation staff whose job it is to discuss and plan for the future of recreation, including Chandler Newburger. And I don't think we need to formally then bring Families for Chandler into the process. I think they'll deal themselves in without the formal assignment.
Thank you. Alderman Rainey.
Terrible idea to want people to be involved in their community center. I withdraw my second. This is a council who never stops talking about the need for citizen participation. But when it's suggested in a formal way, it's rejected. So I'm not sure that I understand what just happened, but I guess we should just go forward and join Chandler and not worry about it coming back next year.
Well, let's then vote on then if we're not voting, if the amendment's no longer seconded.
I can withdraw.
Then we're back to Alderman Wilson's motion. Do you want him to repeat it again, or?
No.
What'll you give me for that, Ann?
I'll give you I'll give you Noise Cultural Arts Center.
Okay. All right, City Clerk, could we please have a roll call?
You want me to restate the motion?
No, Alderman Wilson is not going to restate the motion.
He doesn't have to restate. I know what he.
Okay.
Want me to restate it?
No. Nobody wants it restated.
No, we don't.
All right, we'll restate the motion. The motion is to remove Chandler from the list.
The motion is to decline the city manager's request to explore alternative uses or the sale of the Chandler Newberger Center, and to remove Chandler from the list of, I don't want to say from the list of proposed cuts. We might raise fees or, something like that, but
All right.
from the list.
From the list. All right. City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Call and roll. Alderman Nguyen. Aye. Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Holmes.
Aye.
Alderman Tindem. Alderman Grover. Alderman Rainey.
Absolutely.
Burris.
Aye.
Fisk.
Aye.
And Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
9-0.
9-0, the motion passes. That still leaves us needing to discuss the Noise Center and the Art Center. Alderman Rainey.
Well, Madam Mayor, I'm going to move that we remove the Noise Cultural Arts Center from the chopping block. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I do believe the Noise Cultural Arts Center people are willing to participate in going forward and saving the center. I've had several people contact me about it. I had no idea you were having this meeting today. And in fact, I was in the building all day because I have no power and I had no, had to do my packet and everything. And I had no idea that was going on today. And I could have told these people who are at the Noise Cultural Center that they could be at the meeting, but I didn't know about it. So I think that that needs a lot more exploration. So I'm going to make a motion that we remove Noise Cultural Arts Center from the cut list and direct the city manager to go forward on the Art Center with whatever attractive prospects we have to continue to meet with them.
Since I was part of the meeting, I'd like to respond for clarity's sake. One of the concerns about the Noise Cultural Arts Center is that we do not have the funds to maintain the building. Since we do not have the funds, the concern is that 3 years from now, as the building has deteriorated more, that we will begin to lose major tenants. The hope is that with all the puzzle pieces floating around in the air, that this is a moment when we could put them together and manage to maintain all the artists in town without losing some. The artists have said they would like a better theater, and they can't raise money to create a better theater space unless they own the building or have a very long-term lease. But it is true that you can't raise money traditionally for a building that you don't own.
Could I just say that I would like it, my motion is to remove it from the list for now, so that all the participants at the Noise Cultural Arts Center, all the tenants, can participate in this. I think if we put it on the cut, if we leave it on the cut list tonight, they're out. They're just plain out. And I'm sure all the tenants there want to be in a wonderful space someplace else. But that doesn't seem to be the case when you listen to them. So, I mean, I was amazed at the offer from the four tenants. I think that's a wonderful thing. But I don't think it's inclusive. So that's my problem. I think, please, don't do that. It just drags us out. I really think that people aren't being included here. And that is what I would like to see. I would like to see it off the cut list tonight. It might be able to come back in 6 weeks and put it back on the cut list, but in the meantime, everybody needs to be involved in this decision. I mean, the Noise Cultural Arts Center has been around for years and years and years, and it is an attraction in this town. You know, I know parents with little children aren't playing soccer there, but other things are going on there.
I agree with you that it's wonderful, and I would like to be able to preserve it in this town, and that's what the intent is. City Manager, did you want to speak?
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the council. It is not my intention to cut Chandler, not my intention to cut noise. We have serious capital issues there, and I'm asking the council's permission to talk with the tenants and other interested parties to see what we can do to come up with solutions. You know, one of the challenges of being your city manager is what is the line to begin talking about something? I've joked with a couple of you, should we have a meeting because 2 weeks there may be an idea, so we have to have a meeting to let people know in 2 weeks there may be an idea that might be talked about. This is the beginning of a process. We're in July for a budget that will be for January. I do not believe it makes any sense whatsoever for the city of Evanston to close the Noise Cultural Arts Center. I do believe it makes sense for us to look at alternate models to operate the Noise Cultural Arts Center, and would ask that the council allow that to go forward with the clear understanding that closing the center is not an option before us.
All right, Madam Mayor, I'd like to amend my motion that the city of Evanston not close the Noise Cultural Arts Center, but in the next 2 months continue to discuss with all the participants, all the tenants at the Noise Cultural Arts Center, how to alternatively operate the center going forward.
Thank you.
Second motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Alderman Burris?
My light not working? It's been on for like a really long time.
It's not on.
It was on, like, many times.
All right.
Is it working okay?
Turn it on. Yeah.
Great, thank you. First, I want to say thanks to Wally for looking for ways to assist us in balancing the city budget. Although not all your ideas are maybe on target with the community and council objectives, I appreciate your willingness to be creative and to go out there and do things that are unpopular. I really think that that's something that we need in our city manager. I think many of us are sometimes we hide behind that, but somebody has to make those hard choices and put that out there for us to discuss. And I think you're doing an amazingly great job. When it comes to the Harley Clark Mansion, could you provide a few examples of ideas for what could happen for that? That seems to be the one that makes most sense to do something with. I would agree with the Noise Cultural Arts Center to look at alternatives. Let's look at other ways to go about providing art services. So I would, Alderman Rainey's motion about on a cut list, I didn't see any of this as a cut list at all. I see this as we're opening up discussion. And if we don't open up discussion about our budget problems and we don't be honest about our budget problems, we're going to be back here every year, and we seem to be back here every year with signs and buttons and stickers. But no one's out here with signs and buttons and stickers saying, this is how we can help you raise money for the city. This is how we can help the revenue side. We only hear about the expenditure side. So until we have more money coming in the door, there are going to be cuts. And we need to make hard choices. So it's going to be a hard budget year this year. It's going to be a hard budget year next year. And nobody wants to cut anything. We need to look at what we do need to cut. So when you come to city council and say you don't want something cut, please talk about what you do want cut. We have people that come up all the time and say, cut, the aldermen that have health insurance. But they throw that out there. Most of us don't even take the health insurance. They throw out things that are little bits of money. So if you want to make Evanston to continue to be all those recreation and human services, we need to find the revenue side of the budget as well. So please help us with that, as well as saying not what to cut.
Thank you. Alderman Grover?
I'll pass.
Alderman Wilson?
I'll pass.
Alderman Fisk?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I think the tenants at Noise are actually coming forward and saying that they're interested in looking at ways to help out. I'm very interested in retaining the balance at Noise between artists and arts groups. I think that's something that's very valuable, that's very healthy for the Arts Center, and it's also so healthy for the Noyes Street Business District, who depends on the Art Center in so many ways daily to support their businesses. The Noyes Cultural Arts Center was actually designed by Daniel Burnham in 1892. It's a landmark. I mean, it should be a landmark building. I don't think it's officially designated a landmark building, but I would ask the city to consider pursuing landmark designation for the building. It also is on a parcel of land that it shares with a very precious resource in that neighborhood, which is parkland. The only two public parks we really have east of Ridge are the Talmadge Park and the park at Orrington School. Everything else is privately owned. So it is a huge resource for the community. I think it needs to be dealt with on a very sensitive basis. Again, the juxtaposition between parkland, parking lot, heavy uses in the Art Center are all, and the business district, are all working very well, but that balance really needs to be maintained. So I'm fully in support of the individual artists at the Art Center. I'm fully in support of the various organizations that come forward. My tendency is not to support the actual sale of city-owned property right now. I would support a lease of some sort, and would suggest the city manager have that discussion, but certainly not the sale of the building. I would like to know more about, as the mayor alluded to, that we have space in Evanston for all the artists who wish space. If it's not at the Noyes Cultural Arts Center, I would like to know where it is. I do think that there is a way of raising money to rehabilitate this wonderful landmark building. I would hate to lose a Daniel Burnham building down the road because we weren't maintaining it appropriately.
Thank you. Alderman Tendam.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was really just going for clarification. As the manager said, this is not a cut list, but an attempt to look at a better business model for this. And I totally agree with both the mayor, your suggestions and his, that we look at this differently. But I think, like we do everything else, we look at it with diversity and inclusivity in mind. We go through great lengths to do that in some of our budget discussions, handing out postcards at stores, and really jumping through hoops to get everyone notified and informed that there will be a meeting, and I think that's very important. So the bigger artist groups and the smaller artists alike will be represented.
Thank you. Alderman Rainey.
I pass.
Right. City Manager, did you want to respond to Alderman Burris's question, I guess?
Yes, Madam Mayor, Alderman Burris. Given the location of the Harley Clark Mansion, it's not an easy thing to get to. There's really no parking, so the kinds of uses I think are kind of limited. It was used as offices prior to the city's ownership of it. I think the Art Center, an art use makes sense. It was a house at one point. I mean, there might be some sort of residential, recreational lodging opportunity there. There is also the adjacent building, which has 2 apartments in addition to the parking spaces, so that might be as part of play too. But it's not going to be something where there's lots of people coming. I think one of the challenges that the Evanston Art Center has had is access. During the winter time, they have most of the use of the lot, but this time of year, I was just out there with Alderman Grover, what was that, a week or so ago? I mean, it's crawling with people using the beach, people using the park, people going to classes at the Art Center. So it would have to probably be some sort of less intense use, but clearly there's many of those out there.
All right, I see no further lights.
Madam Mayor, could I make one very brief comment?
Yes, you can.
You need to come to the microphone.
And please say who you are.
I'm Harold Bauer, 1215 Greenwood Street here in Evanston. All I ask of the City Council is that we have a chance to present a total package of what's involved in this decision. I represent the Evanston Arts Center, which is hundreds and hundreds of artists taking classes, children, seniors. we are all sensitive, Piven, Next, Actors Gym, the Evanston Arts Center, we're all sensitive to the needs and the hopes of individual artists. But we're talking about 30 artists, perhaps, each of which is important, versus hundreds and hundreds of students who are also seeking an opportunity to expand what we offer and to seek a secure location. I think we just need an opportunity, perhaps at some other meeting or occasion, to present to you a fuller picture of the package that's involved in asking the city manager to pursue other possible alternatives for the use of that building. Thank you.
Thank you. I do agree that if we don't look at all alternatives at this particular point in time, that we may lose a significant number of artists from our community as a result of not being able to provide adequate space. So, City Manager, do you think you have the clear direction you need, or do you want a motion and a vote?
I would like a motion and a vote, but my understanding that the motion that's on the floor is to look at the alternate uses to make it clear that closure is not an option at this time, merely to look at alternate uses and have that be part of the larger budget discussion. So if that's a correct understanding of the motion, then I would appreciate a vote.
Alderman Rainey.
Well, not to close noise is the motion.
That's correct. There is no motion on the Harley
But
Clark.
alternate uses, I'm beginning to think alternate uses other than arts.
No, that's not my understanding of the motion. My understanding of the
I
motion
just want to make sure that's
is that
not
it would be to continue to provide the same uses that are there in a different way.
In a different
with the same individuals, organizations, but look at a
Operation.
different model other than the city leases and the city operates, a different model other than that, if there one that can be worked out.
The operation model.
That's
the
correct.
different part.
That's
Okay.
correct.
All right, that's good. That's my motion.
Alderman Fisk.
I'm assuming, City Manager, that you're going to keep in contact with all of the other arts, or with all of the arts organizations and the individual tenants that hold leases.
And Alderman Fisk, members of the council, I'm certainly prepared to do that. I think the question arises with the letter that was received by the four organizations. Is it the council's wish that this be something that's discussed in mass? Certainly the four organizations have made it clear that they are coming to the city together as a group of four. I'm hearing sort of mixed things from the council on that. If you're rejecting that at this point and wish that these discussions be done with all entities, or just a matter of talking to the four but also keeping everyone apprised of the discussions.
I think it's important to talk to everyone, and I think there's a sense out there, and I can understand where the sense came from, that larger organizations who might have the resources to purchase, what would happen to the individual artists when the center wouldn't be under city control? And I'm, again, very sensitive to that. I do believe sincerely that we need to retain the individual artists in this building. So I would not like to move forward with, as part of the discussion, the actual purchase of noise by the four groups. At this point, I think you should talk to everyone.
Okay, and so to go, because I think the four groups feel, in my discussions with them after receiving their letter, the importance of talking with them as a group. And so I'm hearing you saying, Alderman Fisk, is that's not your will, and that would, so that I guess would be important to be incorporated into the motion.
I think you need to be talking to everyone, and I would make an amendment to the motion.
The four groups are, it is my understanding, waiting to see what the vote is tonight, and then they will make their plans, which may or may not include staying at the Noise Center if there is no provision for rehabbing it.
But I think also this is meant to be the beginning of a discussion. And so if you would let me have a discussion, if things are going in a direction that I am concerned with, I hope I have the latitude to come back to the council and inform you. And if different decisions need to be made after further discussion, then that could happen.
I just want to make sure that the people who feel that they have not been part of the discussion, who are tenants in the building, are actually included in the discussion.
And for the record, there was a meeting today, there was a meeting with a smaller group 2.5 months ago, and those... And sir, that's why we're here this evening. Individuals approached the mayor and I and all of us to talk about all sorts of things. And so there have been 2 discussions, and that's all. So
Individual artists approached me, and I said they were welcome, and they came. It wasn't, I didn't call the meeting, so I didn't ask for the meeting. Well, you all are, I understand that. You will know about the next meetings, but you have not been excluded from any meeting in which I was a party. I refuse to come unless the individual artists who had asked me if they could come were allowed to come. I didn't, it wasn't my meeting. I didn't call it. I didn't ask.
Okay.
All right.
Point of order.
Alderman Rainey.
Well, the point of my motion had to do with inclusivity, not acing out any members, any tenants at Noyes Cultural Arts Center. So I don't know, I mean, I made that very clear in prefacing my motion, and so let's go forward. I call the question.
All right, City Clerk, this is money as well. Would you call the roll?
Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Holmes.
Aye.
Alderman Tindem. Alderman Grover. Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Burris. Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite. 9-0.
9-0, the motion passes. All right. Alderman Rainey, I believe we need the...
Is there any direction on the Harley Clark Mansion or not?
Alderman Wilson.
I move that we authorize the city manager to engage in the same kind of dialogue and conversation with regard to the Harley Clark property, with the specific directive that the city manager ensure that the arts programs have at least the opportunity to discuss and explore alternative locations or programming options in conjunction with a possibility of selling or discontinuing the use of that building.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Alderman Fisk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm interested in this building for a number of reasons. It was built as a residence. It is an Evanston landmark. I would like the city manager to look into the possibility, as Northwestern University does frequently, of a long-term leasehold, if that's the direction we're going to go in. Again, it's an important property sitting on the lake. Obviously, we'll have to, as the mayor mentioned, make that footprint as small as possible to what we're actually designating a private party to do with the building, if that's the way we go. Am I making sense? I hope I'm making sense. Anyway, the parking lot is important to the people who use the beach. Obviously, the beachfront is important to, it's one of our favorite beaches. So I guess the house itself and the coach house would and the, there is a conservatory there, I believe, too, that would be something that would serve as a package to look at for either a long-term private leasehold and possible use that might have some community value to it. But ultimately, it's the preservation of the house I think is important. This is a beautiful house. It needs a great deal of money to repair and retain its quality. And frankly, I don't think we would ever have the money to do justice to this piece of property. So I would support the motion and encourage the city manager to look at a long-term leasehold.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Seeing no more lights, City Clerk.
Is that an amendment to that?
No, that wasn't. That was not an amendment. That was Alderman Fisk. That was not an amendment.
Okay.
I'm assuming the city manager is taking direction. Yeah. Okay.
City Clerk.
Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Holmes. Alderman Tindem. Alderman Grover. Alderman Rainey. Alderman Burris. Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite. 9-0.
9-0, the motion passes. City Manager, do you have all the direction you need?
And then some, thank you.
And that's, all right. Alderman Rainey, could we have the consent agenda?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First item on the consent agenda is approval of the minutes of the regular City Council meeting of June 27. City of Evanston payroll through July 3rd in the amount of $2,684,653.53. Your approval is requested for the Evanston bills through July 12, the amount of $2,606,592.55. Credit card activity is requested for approval through May 31st in the amount of $100,028.78. Committee Administration and Public Works recommends council approval of a contract to award the 2011 50/50 sidewalk and curb replacement program to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, Schroeder and Schroeder, in the amount of $185,250. We ask your approval also of a contract to award the 2011 alley paving project to the lowest responsible and responsive bidder, A-Lamp Concrete contractor, in the amount of $391,365. The committee asks your approval, as well as the police department, and recommends authorizing the city manager to renew the annual sole source service agreement with Motorola. The agreement is effective July 1, 2011 through June 30th, 2012. The annual cost is $29,758.20. Funding is from the emergency telephone system budget or the 911 budget. Next, we ask your approval for the purchase of a 2007 Ford F-250 animal control vehicle from the Village of Wilmette at a cost of $19,700. The council approval will be forwarded to Wilmette Village Board for their approval and subsequent sale. A4 is off the consent agenda and will be addressed by the committee chair. Next, Resolution 41R11 authorizes the city manager to execute a lease between the City of Evanston and Norma and Nolan Robinson for the apartment located at 1223 Simpson Street for the period August 1, 2011 through July 31st, 2012. The rent will remain at $1,300 per month. The current lease expires July 31st. Next, the committee recommends council approval of Resolution 42R11 to accept planning staff assistance services delivered by the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, or CMAP. The resolution authorizes the city manager to negotiate and execute the memorandum of understanding, including scope of service with CMAP, to develop a water efficiency program for the city of Evanston. A7.1 is a resolution that recommends the city council adopt the resolution, which will abate or decrease the amount of the 2010 property tax levy needed to retire the outstanding general obligation debt by $55,979. Staff recommends City Council adoption of Resolution 44R11, which will abate and decrease the amount of 2010 property tax levy needed to retire the outstanding general obligation debt by $51,978.
Can we take A8 off?
A8 is off the consent agenda and will be addressed by the committee chair. It is the general obligation bond issue. Next item, A9. The committee recommends council approval of Ordinance 60011, which authorizes revenue bonds and related matters regarding Roycemore School conduit financing. The city will act as the conduit financing authority for their debt issuance and will not incur a liability to repay this debt in the event of a default by Roycemore. This debt will not appear on the city's financial balance sheet, but will show as a note in our financial statements. This ordinance was introduced at our last meeting. This is for action. The committee requests adoption of Ordinance 42011, which amends the city code to decrease the number of Class H liquor licenses from 2 to 1 due to the change in ownership of Evanston First Liquors. Ordinance 43011 amends the city code to increase the number of Class H liquor licenses from 1 to 2 to permit issuance to Vishna Evanston Liquors, new owners of Evanston First Liquors. This ordinance also was introduced on June 27th. Next is Ordinance 48011. Staff recommends adoption of this ordinance, provisionally amending the following titles to the Evanston City Code: Title IV Building Regulations, Title V Housing Regulations. This ordinance was introduced on June 27th. Next, the Human Services Committee requests your approval of the Township of Evanston's June 2011 bills in the amount of $95,143.70. Under the Economic Development Committee, the next 6 agenda items, 01 to 06, has to do with funding provided by the Economic Development Fund's Business District Improvement Fund. First item is the Economic Development Committee and staff recommend your approval for the Great Merchants Grant of $5,000 to the Central Street Business Association for projects proposed. The recommendation is conditional upon the receipt of 3 bids. The committee also recommends approval of the Great Merchants Grant of $5,000 to the Chicago Dempster Merchants Association for the project proposed. This is conditional also upon submittal of 3 bids for the brochure development and lighting installation. The committee also recommends your approval of the Great Merchants Grant of $5,000 to the Dr. Hill Business Association for projects proposed in the attached application, in the application included in your packet, that is. The recommendation is conditional upon submittal of 3 bids for marketing and stationery projects. The Economic Development Committee has been very busy and also recommends your approval of a Great Merchants bid of grant of $5,000. Their submitted application and supporting documentation, including the bids, are all complete. Next, number 5, the committee recommends your approval of the Great Merchants Grant of $5,000 to Evanston West End Business Association, EWEBA, for the project proposed in their application. The staff has found that their application is also complete. And number 6 is the Hecky Barbecue Facade Improvement Program. This recommendation is for approval of financial assistance for facade improvements for Hecky's Barbecue with a cost sharing of 50-50, not to exceed $11,500. This is contingent upon the agreement of the property owner to the proposed facade improvements. Next, the Economic Development Committee recommends the city of Evanston share in the remediation and extraordinary site preparation costs for the redevelopment of 2424 Oakton in the amount equal to 1/3 of the total site remediation and extraordinary site preparation costs not to exceed $100,000.
And could we take that off the consent agenda?
Okay.
Thank you.
That's off the consent and will be, who's the committee chair? Will be addressed by the committee chair. Right. Next item is 08. The staff supports the recommendation to the City Council from the Economic Development Committee for utilization of up to $66,000 from the Economic Development Fund for costs associated with construction permit fees for the CTA's project replacing the viaducts on Grove, Dempster, and Greenleaf Street. The funding for this assistance is recommended to come from the Economic Development Fund's Business Attraction Expansion Budget. Under appointments, we have an appointment to the Transportation and Parking Committee by the name of Daniel Brown. With that, Madam Chair, I have completed the first consent agenda on my new iPad, and therefore I move approval.
Second. Congratulations, Alderman Rainey. City Clerk, could we have a roll call vote, a motion to approve? Was it there a second?
I didn't hear.
No, I don't think anybody seconded.
Second.
Should I do it over? It's like listening to
Could we have a
Alderman
roll
Rhodes.
call vote on the motion to approve the consent agenda?
Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Holmes. Alderman Tindem. Alderman Grover. Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Burris. Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite. 9-0.
9-0, the consent agenda passes. Alderman Holmes, Administration and Public Works.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A4, approval of the 2012 vehicle sticker compilation design. The staff recommends that the City Council approves the design to be highlighted on the City of Evanston's vehicle sticker. Nonprofit organizations' logos to be featured on the 2012 city sticker designs are the Cradle, the Evanston Day Nursery, Mather Lifeways, Evanston Community Foundation, and the Chessman Club of the North Shore. We wanted to remove this so that we would give the community a chance to see the design, and also to thank Alderman Tindem for his help in making sure that we had one that represented Evanston well. So I would move approval.
Second.
Thank you, Alderman Tindem.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman.
Tried to get him to help.
Been moved and seconded with unanimous thanks to Alderman Tindem. We approve the sticker compilation design. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The design is approved.
A8, ordinance 59-0-11, approval of the general obligation bond issue. Staff recommends approval of ordinance 59-0-11 for the issuance of not to exceed amount of $19,300,000 in 20-year tax-exempt general obligation bonds, GO bonds. As has been previously, the city uses a parameter ordinance that provides a not-to-exceed limit on the bond set at $19.3 million. The proposed $19.3 million debt issuance is comprised of GO bonds to be issued for the funding year 2011 capital improvement program of $9,120,000, the sewer fund of $8 million, and refinancing of a portion of the Series 2003B bond in the amount of $2,120,000. This item was introduced at our June 27th City Council meeting. I would move approval.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Alderman Burris?
I once again have concern with taking on more debt for the city. I believe that with this new debt, we would be at $109 million in unabated debt, and I wonder if I could have Assistant City Manager Marty Lyons talk about that. Once again, we're taking on more, not new revenues coming in, and a lot of money going out the door. I see this as we can't find a way to tighten our belts, so we're borrowing on our credit card. So can we talk a little bit about that? Thanks.
Yes, Alderman Burris, Madam Mayor, members of council, Clerk Green, Marty Lyons, Assistant City Manager. As Alderman Burris noted, our beginning unabated debt as of 3/1/11 was $101.6 million. And when we add our debt of $13,090,000, that is the unabated portion of the debt issuance, and then we take away our we are retiring about $5.3 million worth of unabated debt. Our debt goes up to the $109.4 million. So that's and then one other point of clarity for this is with the change of our fiscal year, we would have paid $1.7 million within this fiscal year. It's paid on January 1st. So when we take that into account, it's literally we pay most of our debt on December 1st and then some of it on January 1st. When we take that amount into account, we're increasing our unabated debt by about $6.05 million. And that comes from the sewer debt, where we have taken the sewer bonds and converted them into general obligation bonds to be paid from unabated sources, meaning we will levy for those. In the September report of September 2010, what we noted to the council, what was approved was a long-term package of $17 million in debt that would result in about a 2.7% increase in the levy over 4 years. And this was seen as preferable to raising the sewer rate for approximately 4 years and then decreasing it again. So that's our debt picture for this year.
Does that answer your questions, Alderman Burris?
It does answer this particular question. I'm clearly not happy with our debt issue. Can we also make a reference to give us again our debt ratio compared to similar communities? I know you gave it to us last year. I just think we need to keep putting it out there. We need to be on our website. We need to continually tell everyone why we're in such financial trouble. And hopefully people can come and try to help us find ways to cut our debt problem and understand that we do not have unlimited revenues. I know some people get up and say, we'll just raise our taxes. I think that's probably fine for some in Evanston. For many, it is not. We've gone through a lot of foreclosures. We have people out of their homes. But we continue to get up here and say we don't want to close anything and we're going to add more debt. So I would like to once again see our debt ratio compared to others. Thanks.
And I can update that worksheet after this debt has been recorded with the exact amounts, and we'll provide that during the budget process. To reiterate, we were higher than other communities that don't use debt to do their capital projects and have some sort of revenue source for that on a pay-as-you-go basis.
Thank you. Alderman Rainey?
I think the most helpful thing for most of us, and I'm sure for the community, is to see a listing of the capital projects for which the money generated from the bond sales goes to support. For example, potholes, streets, alleys, all those kinds of things. Community centers, Noyes Cultural Arts Center, Chandler, definitely Chandler, and all the others. City Hall, I mean, this building has been a major benefactor of capital money. So if you could just point to the page where we could go to see that, that'd be helpful.
And we also do that for the ratings agencies, so I can present that same presentation along with where we have the individual line items that are funded from the debt. So we can put that on the website and send that to the council.
And believe it or not, for those of you who have never read one of the bond sale booklets, they contain the most fascinating information. Mm-hmm. You'll just love reading it. It really is very interesting, but what I'm asking you for is to pull that page out, those pages out, so that people can see them, because not everybody on this council is probably going to plow through one of the books. Or what do they call them? Prospectus?
Official statements.
The official statement.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we pass Ordinance 59011, approval of general obligation bond issue. Seeing no further lights, City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Nguyen.
Aye.
Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Holmes.
Aye.
Alderman Tindem. Aye. Alderman Grover.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Burris.
No.
Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
8 to 1.
8-1, the motion passes.
Madam Mayor, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Alderman Holmes. Alderman Burris, you are the Economic Development.
We ask for your approval for assistance to Gordon Food Service for redevelopment of 2424 Oakton Street. The Economic Development Committee recommends the City of Evanston share in the remediation and extraordinary site preparation cost for the redevelopment of 2424 Oakton Street. The Economic Development Committee recommends to City Council that the financial assistance to Gordon Food Service be in an amount equal to 1/3 of the total site remediation and extraordinary site preparation cost, not to exceed $100,000. Funding will be provided by the Economic Development Fund's Business Attraction Expansion Fund with a fiscal year 2011 budget allocation of $500,000. To date, $76,850 has been allocated for various projects.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Alderman Rainey?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is probably one of the most important economic development projects that's come to us in quite a long time for the area of town outside of the downtown. And the reason I'm saying that is because this has been 7 acres of a vast wasteland at 2424 Oakton for about 7 years. It has been for sale. It has been in borderline foreclosure. It's been tinkered with by several prospects. It is the ideal site for the family entertainment center, including a bowling alley, which has never happened. And along came Gordon Foods to save us from the dirt pile. And the problem is Gordon Foods, being as diligent and as responsible a user as you could ever find, ever. These are the most straight up, forward-thinking people you will find coming to Evanston. And they discovered after tens of thousands of dollars of testing the soil there that it is almost economically not feasible to build upon that land. However, they have decided, and they believe they have engaged the current owner of that property, who is problematic, to participate in the remediation of this soil. And the owner is going to pay $100,000. Gordon Foods is going to pay $100,000. And we can either help pay $100,000 or continue to have this dirt pile for maybe another 7 years, because any of the projects that I've wanted to bring certainly don't have the kind of resources that Gordon Foods has. So I'm thinking those people who think we should not contribute this $100,000 are people who think that we don't need companies like Gordon Foods helping to pay property taxes, sales taxes, et cetera, to keep things like Chandler and Noise and all the other things that we do. Everything goes into the general fund pot. It all helps. So this land is vacant. They're going to build a store there, and the $100,000 will be made up in a matter of a year or two, probably. So I'm thinking it's a great idea. The one thing that I want to do, Alderman Burris, on this motion is I did read it, but I'm so excited by this project, I probably missed it. And maybe Mr. Griffin can help too. Does this contribution or sharing, is it based on Gordon Foods going forward and building the store? Because if it doesn't, I would like to add that to the motion, if you don't mind.
Hi, Steve Griffin, Director of Community and Economic Development. No, we didn't talk about that specifically. We need to do a letter of agreement with them anyway, and how the money is going to be paid. So conversely, we can also incorporate your concern about that money comes back to the city if Gordon doesn't go forward. we've talked to them. They're going to come in with building permits next week.
I know. And I believe that they are of such a mind that they probably will know that they're not going forward long before they take the money to do the remediation. So I would just like to have it in as a safeguard, but I have no fear that they would know they weren't going forward prior to the expenditure of money, their portion of the remediation.
Yes, ma'am, and we'll,
But
we'll
I would
incorporate
still
that.
like it included. Thank you.
And we'll incorporate that into the letter of inducement.
Alderman Wilson?
That's actually the reason why I asked to have it taken off the consent agenda, because I didn't see anything that allowed us to recapture the money in the event the project didn't go forward. So as long as that's included in the agreement, I would support the motion.
Alderman Grover?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm assuming that Gordon Foods has not closed on the purchase of this property, that
They have not. They're waiting on their environmental sign-offs that they hope to by the end of this month with Illinois EPA.
And our investment in the property only addresses the Lot 1. It doesn't address the rest of the dirt pile at 2424
Yes,
Oak
it's
Street.
the one of the two lots. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Seeing no further lights, it's been moved and seconded to approve the assistance to Gordon Food Service for redevelopment of 2424 Oakton Street. City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Alderman Nguyen. Aye. Alderman Wilson.
Aye.
Alderman Holmes.
Aye.
Alderman Tindem. Aye. Alderman Grover. Aye. Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Alderman Burris. Aye. Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite. 9-0.
9-0, the motion passes. We are at call of the wards. Alderman Nguyen. Thank you. Alderman Wilson.
Just want to invite everyone to join us downtown for the bike races on Sunday.
Thank you. Alderman Holmes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As many of you know, the mayor has a task force on a safe summer, and that task force is made up of many people in the community, and one portion of that is the faith community. And as a part of that, on this Saturday at 10 o'clock at Springfield Baptist Church, which is located at Darrah and Emerson Street, there will be the first prayer vigil for a safe summer for the youth. So we'd like to ask people to come out and join Pastor Williams, who is the pastor of Springfield, and some of our committee in prayer for a safe summer.
Please tell Pastor Williams thank you, and I will be praying in Wisconsin. But
Absolutely.
I promise at 10 o'clock.
I will let him know that. Also, on Thursday, the third Thursday, which is a regular ward meeting for the 5th Ward, on July 21st, we will be hosting the District 65's new school committee, which is discussing a new school in the Central Core. I think those are people who are interested in knowing what the committee is thinking about building a new school, whether that'll be in the 5th Ward or wherever, should maybe come out to that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Tindem.
No report. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Grover.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just learned that Ravinia is offering free lawn admissions to every high school or college student with a valid student ID. Get yourself to Ravinia, and for every Chicago Symphony Orchestra concert, you get in for free. Ravinia will record every student who comes from Evanston Township High School, and by the end of the CSO's time at Ravinia, the high school with the most points for admission, free admission, will get $1,000 to their music program at the high school. So please encourage all of our high school students to find their way to Ravinia, get themselves in, sit on the lawn, enjoy the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, and try to win some money for the high school's music program. The Central Street sidewalk sale is this weekend, beginning Thursday, ending Sunday. So please come spend your money on Central Street.
Thank you. Alderman Rainey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. City Manager, do you know if the police outpost has power?
I do not know for certain. I do not.
All right, could we post on the city's website if it does have power?
Certainly.
Because here's what I would like to do. From 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock tomorrow, I will be at the police outpost with the door unlocked, sitting there waiting for you to come and power up whatever equipment you have to power up. There are lots of outlets there, and I will be glad to sit there with you. It's air-conditioned, if the power's on, and wait for people to power up, because I have no power, so I'll be powering up there. I spent the day at City Hall today, and I think it'll be more fun down on Howard Street. Next, July 14, very important meeting at the Outpost, 633 Howard, at 7:30, Brummel Park Community Meeting to discuss the first ever Brummel Park Starlight Concert featuring Expo 76 with the guitarist from Poi Dog, and food truck fair. We'll have at least 4 food trucks, and we'll have a big discussion about how all that's going to happen. The concert is on July 28th. Please save the date, 5:30 to 9 o'clock. Brummel will be closed between Custer and Elmwood. It's going to be a real party, so please come. Madam Mayor, I'd like to have information on the Des Plaines Casino, the new River Casino, sharing revenue with the various communities. I know at one time we all went to bat for the issuance or the creation of a license to allow for a land-based casino in the suburbs. And one of the agreements we had, I think it was with Rosemont, was that they would share revenue. So I'm hoping that that's going to happen.
And Alderman Rainey, I did do a little research on that. Since Des Plaines was the one that received the license, they have an agreement with 10 communities in the south suburbs. We are not among them.
Well, we're south of Kenilworth. How did that happen? I mean, did we not engage?
And I had forwarded to both you and Mayor Tisdale over the weekend a press release from the city of Des Plaines from a couple of years ago that explained that. I'm happy to forward it again.
I didn't get it.
Oh, all right, well then I apologize.
Did you get it?
No, because I've been meaning to ask for this.
I got it. I can forward it also.
All right. Okay, so
We'll provide the information to the full council.
For neighbors in the Brummel Park area, July 14, 7:30 at the Outpost, and for the entire city of Evanston, July 28 at 5:30. Please bring cash. The food trucks only accept cash. Thank you. And thank you for the Gordon Foods vote.
All right. Alderman Burris.
Thank you. I actually wanted to clarify, at the Human Services Committee last week, I said that my dog was attacked a couple years ago. I went back and looked at my records, and I was wrong. It was 2006. So the problem with the dangerous dogs and the animal warden has been happening a lot longer than I had thought. So just wanted to clarify. So when I say something and it's incorrect, I want to make sure that I give the proper dates. Ninth Ward meeting this Wednesday, the 13th at 7 p.m. at the Fire Station number 2. We'll be getting a tour of the fire station as well as the new, I think they call it an engine. I kept calling it a truck and I was being corrected. So the meeting will be on the apparatus floor where the trucks sit, and they'll be moving the trucks out. So please come. We look forward to seeing you.
Thank you. Alderman Fisk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to make sure everyone comes downtown to the bike race this weekend, and I hope that Turin's electricity is on by that time, as well as the other businesses in the 1000 block of Davis Street. I'd like to also thank city staff and forestry workers for their hard work today. There were major trees down blocking streets as well as lines down, and they just did a heroic work under fairly dangerous circumstances. But I also want to say that I think a lot of the damage that was incurred today speaks louder than words as to why it's important for the city to maintain an aggressive tree trimming and maintenance schedule. So as budget time comes up, we'll be talking more about that. Finally, I'd like to make a reference to the Rules Committee concerning the manner in which aldermanic references are made and transmitted to standing committees. According to the city manager, currently there are two ways that aldermen may refer matters to standing committees. The first and more conventional is an announcement at the call of the wards, and the other is by communicating directly with the committee chair. And I would suggest that in order to ensure transparency and public awareness, that if the reference is made directly to the committee chair, then the chair be required to announce the reference publicly or as soon as possible, preferably at the next city council meeting or at the next meeting of the standing committee, whichever comes first. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Braithwaite?
No report.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Madam Mayor, I have one item before we adjourn. Alderman Grover has brought to my attention an item that was before the Human Services Committee at its last meeting regarding a request for parking at the Govern Golf Course.
The resolution to approve parking on 4 holes, renewing 3 holes and adding a 4th hole.
And has brought to my attention some urgency for consideration of this. You have a meeting next Monday evening. Pursuant to your rules, that meeting is not generally accepting business from a committee. If it's all right with the council, I would like to place that item from Human Services on your agenda next Monday evening.
And Mr. Bobkowitz, it's not about urgency, it was about expectation of, I sent a letter to the neighbors adjacent to the proposed 4th hole where golf course parking would be permitted on the 6 football Saturdays, telling them it would be tonight, discussed tonight. It was not, so if we could continue it or put it to next Monday, that would be most helpful, and I will contact all those residents again and tell them.
So, Madam Mayor, unless there's objection, we'll just go ahead and place it on next week's agenda. They're basically, all the items are special order to business, so this will just be one of those items.
Alderman Fisk?
I've received a lot of emails on this, and I would just like to make sure that whatever Alderman Grover does, that it does reach, especially the people who are in the, is it Evanston Terraces, whatever the condo building is, because they're very concerned, as well as others who felt that they had not received adequate notification.
Actually, we very specifically included everyone at Evanston Terraces, all those condominiums, even the ones that don't front Bryant Street, to make sure that they knew. And I just want to get it before the council sooner rather than later.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn? Move to adjourn. Is there a second? Second. All in favor? All right, we need to roll. Go ahead, Rodney.
Alderman Nguyen. Aye. Alderman Wilson. Aye. Alderman Holmes. Aye. Alderman Tindem. Aye. Alderman Grover. Alderman Rainey. Alderman Burris. Alderman Fisk.
Aye.
Alderman Braithwaite. 10:28, 10:30.